All right, guys, we are live and we are building a ticketing system together. This has got to be perhaps the 10th or 11th video in this series. So let me just do a refresh on this screen. This is the full playlist, and you can find this link to the whole playlist down in the description, perhaps in the top pinned comment that I've put down below if you're watching this as a replay. So far we've got 10 videos. So this will actually be the 11th in a series, and we are building out this ticketing system. And let me just bring up the wireframe that we've been working on in a previous video. So we sort of designed out this system screen by screen, and the heart of the application is going to be the screen that we're going to be developing today. Okay, so sort of exciting. This is one of the main screens, and all right. And what I'll probably do is open this up in a different screen so I can always be looking at it while I'm building that. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up here. Okay. And just to give a refresh of what we've done so far, we've taken our time, which is to design the app, to gather the requirements, to do everything you should be doing before you start an application. And it's really what I recommend doing for any Powerapps application. And good morning, Gerald. It's great to have you here this morning. So this is all the designing and the upfront work is what we should be doing on every application that we do in Powerapps. And it's what I recommend doing. You can avoid disaster. I've got several videos about that. And then we've designed out, or we have defined user stories. So for example, the user story that we'll be tackling today is, as a user, I want to enter a new ticket so that I don't have to, so that I can get help that I need. Okay, so Michelle, hey, Michelle, you made it. Good morning from South Carolina. Very cool. I was hoping you make one of these live streams. Oscar, good morning, everyone. Good morning to you, Oscar. Miami, okay. I'm in Orlando right now. Very cool. So, in fact, let me just bring up, this is a document here that, now the link to this document is in the Facebook group. So there is an accompanying Facebook group that goes along with this. It's called the Insiders Group. So if you ever hear me call it the Insiders Group, there's things that I can say and do there that really don't go over well in YouTube or something that's all publicly accessible like YouTube. So such as this link to this document. So this is a work in process. You'll find the link there. I just reposted it at the top of, so if you're in the Insiders Group, go up to the top and the link is there. And so we're going to scroll down here. I'm going to look for the user stories. Okay, so I've sort of spaced things out. So this is all the data tables. So just as a refresher, here's all the tables that we have defined for this application. And, all these requirements and things can change a little bit, but you want to try to define everything as much as you can at the beginning. And there's probably a good 10 or 20% as you're going along building out the screen. Some things will sort of change a little bit. So don't feel bad if you need to modify a data type, add a column, remove a column, add a table, that type of stuff. That's no big deal. But you want to do as much as you can up front. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. Look at this. As a customer, I want to enter ticket details to get work done or to get a problem fixed. I should be able to upload related screenshots and photos, okay, regarding their issue. So if you need work done, a customer will need to go into this application. Now they can also perhaps send an email. They can give a phone up the service desk. They can come in person. And in that case, we're gonna have a service desk technician enter that ticket for them. So if we scroll down, we have all of our user stories separated by user roles. So here's customers, or the requester. We have technicians, the person doing the work. Okay, but really almost all the tickets really start with the service desk staff. Okay. So they will be handling these tickets that come in, and they will be sort of dispatch in the system. Like, okay, well, Harry can handle this type of ticket. Darren is developer. He wrote that app that they're having a problem with. So I'm going to redirect that ticket to him because he's the only one that can fix it, or whatever. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to tackle this main screen here. Okay, and just to sort of show you, we've got all these tables that have been defined here in SharePoint. We're using SharePoint because 70% of people out there in the work world, they use SharePoint. And I'm going to adjust my camera just a little bit here. Very good. So I'm more centered. And also what I can do for you guys, I can make myself smaller so you guys can see this stuff on screen a little better there. Okay. So we have a screen here that we started the very first live stream, which was, okay, here's the subject line. I need my password reset. I've tried to reset my password several times, just doesn't work. I need help. I can't do my work, blah, blah, blah. So it's a longer description, but there's so much more to a ticket that the customer needs to enter than just that. And that very first video, I'm like, I hate to create, a video about Powerapps and not actually do anything in Powerapps. So that's sort of what we did there. Okay. Now, if I go over here, you'll see here's all the, I might zoom in a little bit here for requests. So not only do we have a subject and a body, but we have the request date and time, who the person requested, and all this other stuff here. Who's going to be assigned to, the priority, the category, all that type of stuff. Okay. So there's a lot more stuff there. And just to show you guys one more time, this is the screen. So there's the subject line, there's the body, but we're also going to assign it to information technology. Well, if my boss sexually harassed me, I might create a ticket and put in human resources like, hey, my boss just touched me inappropriately. I need help from HR, So that's an example of a ticketing system that isn't for IT, or hey, all my light bulbs above my cube have gone out. So you would probably pick facilities. Okay. Suggested technician, perhaps you already know that Darren created this application that they're using, they're having a problem with, and the user could say, I think Darren might do this, because a lot of times a service desk in a large organization, a service desk technician, when a ticket comes in, they're like, I have no idea who should be able to handle this, So instead of assigning it to some, poor desktop technician that, installs hardware and helps people with their desktop needs, that would, like a level 1 tech, perhaps, you're putting all that investigative and research on that person, where a good service desk technician is going to do all that research. They'll probably have a knowledge base of all the typical things that come up and who it should be routed to. Okay. So the actual requester, the person affected. So the person affected could actually be an executive, and executives usually have an administrative assistant, or a department head would have an administrative assistant, and that administrative assistant would be the requester, and the person affected would go in this field. All right. Hey, Victor, glad to have you, man. Time to watch my favorite series on weekends. Very cool. Okay, yeah, you're from Spain. Yeah, my in-laws are from Spain. Anton, nice to have you as well. Good morning. So, hey, I see a lot of you are on during this time. So I don't know if that's to the fact that I announced this 2 days before the time and everything, or that maybe this is just the best time for you guys. So maybe I'll just move that time. Guys, let me know, either here or in the insiders group, if 8 a.m. works better for you. Typically, I do these around 10 a.m. So yeah, thanks for joining me. It gives me the later in the morning, it gives my brain a little while to sort of wake up. So this morning I had to wake up a little early, maybe 5:30 or so, to make sure my brain was functioning before I hit the lights, camera, and action. All right. So we have priority levels, and there's all kinds of cool stuff. So we're going to build this today. So enough talk. Let's get in and get this done. But one thing I wanted to show you. Okay, so the last video, you might notice these things: ticket priority, low, medium, high, ticket status, okay, ticket category. Okay, so these are things that we might want on this screen. Okay, and we did that in the last live stream. I think I did that during one of my lunch breaks. So I work a full-time job during the week, and during my lunch, sometimes I do a live stream if I have the time, depending upon what's going on. Now, here are all the menu items so far. We have a place for the admin, the application administration user role. They can go in here and manage all these things. So if I click on request priorities, they can add and edit items out of here. So all these screens are pretty much done. I feel really good about them. Okay, and moving these items up or down was something that I thought was cool, that I hadn't done before. So whenever I do a new application, I like to switch things up and perhaps try things I've never done before. So we might do some of that today. It's always a learning experience. You always want to push yourself a little more and learn a little something new. But if you're an absolute beginner, perhaps you want to keep things as simple and as basic as possible. And because if you try to introduce too many complex or new things, it can be easily overwhelmed when you're learning any new topic. All right, so we got show levels, we have departments, all these things. So I wanted to show you all that because here on not the home screen, but this screen here, I wanted to show you where those come from. Okay, and so I had this image here that I was helping somebody in the Facebook group about how to make their SVGs dynamic. So that was an answer to a question. So guys, it's free to join the insiders group. There is a link. I'll have it in the description. But if you go into Facebook and do a search for Powerapps insiders group, you'll find the group. And then I just request people fill out a little form, just telling me a little bit about themselves, such as, hey, these are the problem areas. This is what I want to achieve, because I want to help you guys out as much as I can, make sure I'm covering things that actually matter to you guys. And I'm not wasting any time on stuff that you guys just don't care about. Okay. So, all right. So whenever I change a screen significantly, what I usually do is I duplicate the screen. Okay. Just in case I spend an hour or two going in and I'm like, I think I've messed it up more than I've helped things out, and I want to delete all those edits, just go back to the previous screen. So I do things like that. Also, you always want to make sure you do some manual saves along the way, because it creates those restore points. Okay. And you can see all the versions. So you can see all the times I've saved the application. Now it's not going to show you everything that's changed. Okay. But you've got things up to the last 6 months, which is great. It's like version control built in. Okay. All right. So, Gerald, can the color in the SVG be referenced by global theme? Yes. Yes. In fact, Gerald was the person that asked this question in the insiders group, and we had a little SVG that he had. I believe it was black, right, Gerald? And you want to make that dynamic. And so if you have an image that's pointing to an SVG, I also have a video. If you want to check it out, do a search called like 4,000 free icons. And Gerald, I think that was the one that you were talking about, if I'm not mistaken. So I'll go here and I'll type in, if you want to find any of my stuff, type in Darren Neese. If you type Powerapps tutorial, you get all kinds of other stuff, right? So I'll do Darren Neese and I'll say icons. Let's see what comes up. Okay, so it's the second one. Get more Powerapps icons. And I'm interviewing Matthew Devaney. He's got one of the best blogs, in my opinion, out there on Powerapps. And I have a whole interview for 45 minutes where I interviewed. But one of the things he has in his, and I think I'm going to bring this up and mute it right away. I don't need to play it. Let's see here. I just want to show you this just to give you context of all this. Okay, this is coming up here. Well, hello, Nicole. She has the same last name as me. Imagine that. And by the way, guys, Nicole has told me that she had something to talk to you guys about later in this video. So if you guys stick around to the end, you will see and hear from her. She said she has a special offer for you guys. I don't know. Let's see what she has to say, right? But to get back to this, what Gerald did was he used one of these icons. And he used a black icon, okay? Now, some of these you can pick all kinds of different colors, right? But what Gerald wanted to do, and it's actually a really good idea. Gerald is is being really slick, and he wants to make this icon color dynamic, which is a great idea. Okay, so what he did was he probably clicked on one of these, the black one, and then he went down in here, and you know what? I'm going to need to zoom in a little bit. Okay, it does, and so he took this code and assigned it into an image. Okay, and if you notice, If I could get that to stay up, Paul, and see if I hover over it, it shows all the code. Look at the very last line of this little tooltip that just popped up. There are 6 zeros in a row. Well, I know that that is a black color. So when I looked at his code, I'm like, okay, look at that. That is probably the black. Let me try this out. And I tried to change it, and it did. So what you do, you see the string is started with a double quote and it ends with a double quote. You see that there in the tooltip? So that's what you'll put in the image is it the image property or media property of the image? Assign that string to that image and it shows the SVG. Very cool, right? Well, what you want to do is instead of those 6 zeros, you end it with another double quote. You do an ampersand. An ampersand splices or puts together 2 strings. Okay, so you end it with a double quote. You have an and then you've got a variable. Okay, now it needs to be a hexadecimal color. Okay, and well, we're not going to have the pound sign with a hexadecimal color in this case because it's not there in the string. But you want RGB, a hexadecimal number for each RGB. Okay, so 6 zeros. If they're all zeros, it's black. If they're all Fs, so hexadecimal is what, 16 values, I believe. So it goes 0 through 9, and then it rolls over to 10. It becomes A, and then AA, then B's, C's, D's, E's, and F's. Okay, so A, B, C, D, E, F. So that's 16. So a total of 16 different values, 0 through 9, A through F. Okay, so all zeros are black, all F's are white. Okay, so the first 2 characters, in this case 0, 0, is it's RGB. That's the red value. So yes, Gerald, if you have that RGB value, you want to get at the string itself, put that in there. So you've got most of the string, you end it with a double quote, ampersand, the value, and then you have another ampersand, and then you have the rest of the string. Okay, so that's how you make that dynamic, Gerald. And if you have any questions, or if anybody has more of an interest in that, perhaps I could create a whole video for that. Okay, very good. All right, guys. So we're going to keep on trucking here, but that was a good question. That was a really cool thing that Gerald was doing. So I at least wanted to take a moment because this is the beauty of building an app in a group. Okay, so because the rest of you could see his question and get an idea. Oh, well, I'm gonna create some dynamic stuff as well, and it's gonna do this. And in the Facebook group, we can post screenshots, we can post little videos, and we can share ideas, and we can pick and choose what we want to have in our own app. So each of you are building this app along with me, and I expect your guys' apps to look. It might be similar. Of course, it's going to be very similar in features and everything, but I sort of want you guys to put your own flair, your own spin, your own styling on this, and sort of make it your own, and you'll be more proud of it. And also in job interviews and portfolios, when they say, "Wow, this looks nice," and you know that you styled things or whatever, it just it makes you feel good. Okay, so we're going to go back here. So we've made a duplicate. Now, whenever we make a duplicate of the screen, it just puts a 1 on here. I'm going to rename this just so it doesn't confuse anyone. And I'll say backup. Okay. I'll go back up here to this one. And there's some things I might want to use. I think I might just want to delete everything right now, or most of the stuff here. Okay, what I need are tabs. Okay, so if we go back to our design, look at this. We got tabs at the top. Okay, you see all that? And okay, so I'm going to take out this stuff for now. Yeah, I'll just take that out. Sort of want to start fresh. And what's great about us duplicating the screen is we can go back to that screen and copy and paste things over if and when we need it. And I do have an error. Let's see what's going on here. So it's the screen on visible. Okay. And I'm just going to comment this stuff out for now. The controls aren't on that screen. So, but leaving them commented out will remind me later. It's like, oh, do I need to reset some controls? So a lot of times when I want to remove code, I won't actually remove it. I'll just comment it out. So I'm going to move this down a little bit. Okay, so I have a screen. This is just a part of my application template. Okay, so if there are things that you guys use in your application a lot, like tabs, I don't use tabs in every application. You know, I try to keep my applications as small as possible, and if it does something completely different, I try to create a completely separate app for it. But there's a lot of times you do need some tabs. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy probably a lot of this. Okay, so these are the tabs. This is a tab group. Okay. Okay. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go up to this screen here. It doesn't look like we actually need that. So I'll paste that there. Hey, look at that. Looks great. Okay. All right. So first thing I'm going to do, looking at this thing again here. So we need ticket info, images, so on and so forth. Okay. So what we'll do, we have, now what I did is I just use all the menu items that's in the app. So we're going to completely replace that. Okay. I think what I might do is I'm going to insert a button. When I create a collection for the application, typically I'll just put over a temporary button. You know, as you see, there's a weird blue color that clashes with everything. And I like to do that because it reminds me I need to delete it eventually. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to some of these tabs should not display for the end user. Okay. Um, for example, office use. Well, they should know office use. Okay, well, maybe I shouldn't click on it, but they're going to click on it anyway and see what's in there, you know, and try to change stuff. And then we got to worry about locking down the fields if they're not the user right, you know, the right user type or whatever. What I want to do is hide or show these tabs based on their user role. Okay. Now I already do that for these menus here. Okay. Now remember, whenever you add new controls, it always covers up like the menu and the spinner. Of course, we've got a lot more stuff to add, but so what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably copy some stuff over there in the app on start. So I'm going to go into on start. Okay, so Gerald asks, can you open Gal tabs 1 and show its contents? Okay. Oh, sure, absolutely. So those are just buttons. Okay. Now, if you want to know more about that, if you go in here, I'm going to open up a new window. Type in Darren Neese tabs. Okay. And this is the one you want to check out. It pretty much describes how to do a tab control. And I go through steps. It's only 7 minutes too. Okay. All right. So going back here. So yeah, so to click on this gallery, you've only got a button in here, and this button will actually pull in, if you look at the text, it's actually pulling in the text from the item that we define here. Okay. But we're going to redefine that. Okay. So I'm going to go in the app on start. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. So, you know, a lot of my videos, guys, they build on each other. So I have, let me go into my channel here, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. Playlists. There is a whole playlist for creating your own app template. Okay. So, something that Nicole's going to talk to you later in the video about is how you can get my application template almost in a way for free. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, Michelle says, buy Darren's template, Michelle. It's so worth it, especially a beginner. Thank you, Michelle. So I realized that some people just can't afford my template. So I wanted to provide, I didn't want to leave anybody behind, because I built a lot of the apps from my template. It makes sense. It's like my secret in building apps, apps in successful Power Apps projects is that I always got a starting point. It saves me tons of time. Okay. Imagine if you had to do this every time you build an application. Just be a pain. Well, there is a video in here called, let me see here, security groups. Yeah, security groups. And I go in and sort of explain the reason why we need them and how to set them up. It's very simple way. So even if you have the template or not and you're not familiar with that, go in and watch this little 12-minute video and I'll show you pretty much all the inner workings of how all that's set up. It's not a lot to it. Just go in and check it out. If you're not familiar, if you're already familiar, then don't worry about it. Okay. So that will explain what I'm about to show you. Um, but if you're already familiar with my channel, which I'm assuming most of you are, is that I don't want to repeat myself and you know bore you guys to tears. All right, so as you see here, okay, so var user roles. It's a variable we pass into the menu to tell it what are all the roles this user is a part of, so it knows which menu items to show or hide. Well, we're going to do the same thing for our tabs. Okay, so we've got this little user string here that we build into this roles, and we check to see if they're a developer, which I'm the only developer of this app. So what it does here is it appends this little user roles. It says, okay, you're a user. Also, if you are a developer, it adds this thing here, which is the actual variable I use. That's a Boolean that tells me if you're a developer or not. So same thing for app admins, okay, and then same thing for testers. Okay, so there are going to be some things that we show or hide based on that. Okay, all right, so I'm going to go find. I think for right now, we might just make the office use open app admins, and we might change that later as our application gets more and more complex. It has more and more features. Perhaps we want that more to be data driven rather than just defined here in the app on start. I have to define everything in the app on start, at least at the beginning, with a like a template like this, a starting point, because it doesn't have any data sources that it's talking to. And if you're using my template, I don't know what your data sources are. I don't know if you're using SQL Server, SharePoint, Dataverse. So it all has to be sort of self-contained. So that's why I did it like that. But eventually you want to sort of break things out, make it more data driven. And as we move along and build out this app, I'll show you exactly how to do that. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build something like this. I'll copy that. And in here on the on select, I'm going to do a clear collect. I'm going to create a new collection, and I'm going to call this edit ticket tabs. Okay, so this screen will be used to add and edit tickets. Okay, and so that references the screen, and I'm talking about the tabs within the screen. So we've got all that now, and we're going to replace all this stuff in here. So the first item, let's just go in here. We have, well, we can replace a lot of this stuff here. I don't know that we need, I'm going to remove all but 2 for now. I just want to keep things simple. Okay, and you see what I mean by that in a moment. Okay, so the very first item, the very first tab should be ticket info. Okay, so as long as they're just a regular user, they're going to be able to see this tab. And I don't need menu item. I don't need menu icon. And I don't even need a screen to go to like a menu would need. And I don't think I need visible. Okay, so we're just looking for those 2 type of things there. So I'm going to take this out. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm saying tab text. Okay, so we'll have that. We'll go in here, and for this one, we'll say images user. The third tab will be office use. Okay. Now let me see here. Probably what I should have done is copy that into Notepad++ on another screen, so I don't have to go back here. But is app admin? That's what I'm looking for. Okay. Cut that. So we'll only show it for our is app admin. Okay. All right. So another tab that we could create here is office use assignments. And then we've got notes. Now, the notes are something a little special, okay? Because if there have been notes that have been added to the ticket along the way, um, from beginning to resolution, we want the users to be able to see those notes, but only the notes that they're allowed to see, okay? Because if you remember over in our requirements and our database diagram, we have show levels, which is sort of like a privacy level. You know how on Facebook you post something and by default you're just posting it to just your friends or maybe even your friends' friends. There's an option. You can go in and set the privacy level to the whole world. You know, anybody can see this. So if they go to your profile and they're not your friend, whatever, they can always see your stuff. But if you just make it your friends, and it's, you know, it's a different privacy level. Also, you can set it to just yourself. Okay, so it's sort of like the thinking behind that, or what that's similar to. Okay, so what we want is users to be able to get in there, all the users, and then within that, we'll have a gallery that's going to filter based on their role or what they should be able to see. Okay, all right, so we've got all that, and I'm going to copy the name of that collection. Okay, and I'm going to run it. Okay. Now, I didn't change the tabs yet because if we click on this gallery here, it's using the nav item. So I'm going to use that instead. Okay. So that's in there. Now let's go to this arrow within the button. And there's a reason I was using split and everything. That's because I was pulling in all the screens from the menu and I didn't want the word screen to be in all my tabs. So all that's not necessary. So we'll take all that out. Okay. So we got menu label. Instead of menu label, we've got tab text. Okay. So let's look at it now. Look at that. Isn't that cool? All right, so let's click around and let's just see what happens when we click on these tabs here. Okay, so nothing shows or hides because there's really nothing else on the screen. Okay, but it's going to show and hide things. Okay, so these are all the values. If we ever need to change them, as we're working on the screen, we'll leave this button here so we can modify this easily. And then once we feel pretty good about this screen, all the tabs, those are pretty much going to be the tabs we're going to go with. What we can do is we can just cut and paste this over in the app on start, or maybe even the screen on visible, something like that. But it doesn't need to be changed every time the screen loads up. So probably the best place would be app on start. Okay, so we'll do that eventually. Okay, so now that we've got that, the next thing to do, now I'm going to bring up my balsamic or wireframe here. So this was just meant as a little placeholder for a menu. Okay, so don't pay too much attention. That's just a menu. It's ticket information. So we got subject line, request, all that type of stuff. Now I want to do something something that I haven't done much of in the past, which is, and I told you I like to, each new project I like to throw something in new so I can sort of learn and do cool things. And I think when I started learning Powerapps, they went out there, and that is containers. Okay, so I'm going to go down here and look for containers. Where are containers? There's a container. Okay. And also containers are, it's a recommended best practice if you want all your tab, as users are entering data in a data form. When they hit tab, they want to move the focus from control to control, but in a specific order. So if you got a bunch of controls, let's say over here, and they're hitting tab, you want it to move here. And then once it's done, it would move over to a different container and then tab in there. So otherwise, the default tab order will go from up in the upper left corner. I know you guys have a different view of me than what I'm looking at my hand. So it goes up the upper corner and it starts off in the left, and then it goes across the screen right, like a Z, and then it goes down to the next thing. So let's say you've got two columns of fields. You want to use containers, or so that's a recommended practice. Otherwise, you would have to go into the tab order and manually set the tab order of all those, and it's a little weird. It's a little flaky, little wonky, and you got to work with it a little bit to make sure it all works right. So this is the recommended way. So that's what I'm going to do. So I needed to know that I'm teaching you guys the very best way of how to do things. Okay, so that's what my goal is now. And a lot of my screens, I got these little rectangles I add to my screen. I only show it, I hide it with this little tester role here. Okay, so me as a developer, I can take these little things here, and I use these things. It's a little tip and trick that I use, and I put it in here like so to make sure that whenever I add something, it's not right up against a container, for example. So if I click on this again, of course, you can't really see anything just yet. And something that I might do is actually let me try to cut. I'll click on the container, I'll paste it, hopefully it'll go in there. Okay. Now a behavior of a container is it's always going to stay in there. Okay. Let's move that up in here. So now we can add things. Okay, so let me pull this all the way across. Okay, so now what what I'm going to do, I'm going to say CNT for short for container, and I'm going to say ticket info. I'm going to name give my container a meaningful name. Okay, and as we go here, we see our containers. Okay, now what I want to put in here, let's go to this other screen as a backup, and now I want to have all this other stuff. And yeah, let's do that. Copy. Now we'll go over here. We'll click on that container and we'll paste. All right. And so this is a good start, right? Hey, if you're getting anything helpful out of this, a comment or even a like really helps the channel, and lets people like you know this is good content. Much appreciated. I'm taking a look at the comments here. Igor or Igor. So I do apologize if I mispronounce your name. I always try my best. So it says, help people. Hello, teacher. This class will help me so much with my projects. I have a lot of app developed on Powerapps, and you help me so much with some features. I'm from Brazil. Very cool. Very cool. And I think maybe that you got into the insiders group this morning, but if you didn't, let me know, and I'll get the link to you so you can get in the insiders group. I think you're in there though, and that is really the place where you guys I provide the coaching and any specific issues that you have. And I'll try my best if you guys are watching this either here live or down in the comments for a replay. If you guys are having issues, I always try to help you guys out there. But what the Facebook group allows us to do is to post screenshots, maybe even videos or whatever, or I can put a little video in there to sort of describe what's going on. So the perfect example was Gerald was asking about doing dynamic SVGs. So that was a perfect example of how. So it's really a coaching program. It's a course, but it's a coaching program where I'm here with you. So you don't have to go. You don't have to build an app of this size, of this caliber alone. So we can I can help you. Also, you guys can learn from each other, have ideas together. We can brainstorm of what the next thing we want to do is, all that type of stuff. Okay. Uh, so anyway, so there's no charge to be added to that Facebook group, by the way. Okay. So all right. So what I'm going to do here is I've got these two fields. Okay. I want to move this up a little bit. I'm going to bring up my wireframes. So you have the line, the description, the body, the subject, the body, suggested technician. Yeah, very cool. Link to the Facebook. Yeah, cool. So if you're in the Facebook group, you can see what we were talking about, the SVG. Okay. All right. So I'm going to bring this up here, and I'm just going to go off of that. Now, I don't know that these two fields need to be so wide. Maybe something like that. Now, I'm going to watch the comments, guys. I want to hear from you. Like, what do you think of my design? How I'm laying out the controls? I did a poll early. This is months ago, asking you guys what you guys wanted to see more than anything. What topic within Powerapps are you guys most interested in? And the top thing was design, like how to design your screens, how to design your apps. So it's part of the reason why I'm spending so much time on design, with the wireframes, the user stories, and all that type of stuff. So I'd like to hear from you guys on the design, on how I'm laying things out. Okay. So we got suggested technician. Okay. Now what we're gonna do, what would be a good idea is we need a combo box. Okay. Because if you look at our wireframe, we have a suggested technician. So that's a person. We have the requester, we have the person affected. Okay. So we will work on that. Also, let's see here. I've got a project I want to pull up here. Just as a reference, I want to get it. Sometimes Powerapps takes a while to load up, but I've got a previous project I'm going to sort of pull some code from because it's not something that really you memorize. So let's see. Where is that app? It's right here. There we go. I'm going to go in there and take a look at that in a moment. Okay. Now, if you have yourself an application template, you should have a screen here. If you purchase mine, it's down near the bottom called Copy Controls from here. And I'm going to hit Control 0, okay, to sort of zoom out a little bit. And I'm going to go find the combo box. Now, the combo box, I think, is right here. There it is. There's the combo box. And I'm going to copy that. Go back up to our screen. I'm going to click on our container. I'm going to paste it. All right. So we need 3 people pickers. Okay. So, and I like to line things up really nice. Okay. So this is a height of 40. So I'm going to make it as wide as I need to. Then I'll go back and reset a lot of times the height gets messed up. So we've got that. We also need a little label there to go along with it. Okay. Something else I like to do for these labels above the controls. I sort of like to make them the exact same width as everything. So let's make everything 500. So I'm going to click this, all these things. Set the width 500. Okay, because a lot of times I'll have like a little label, and you will notice sometimes the label's longer, and then it'll get scrunched up and all that stuff. So that's what I do. Now we do have. I'm going to move this down a little bit. And something I like to do, let me show you exactly how I space things out. I'm very particular about how I space things out because if you're not particular about how you space and align things, is your application starts to look a little sloppy, in my opinion. So I take a lot of effort in doing this. So what I'll do is I'll make sure there's absolutely no space, right? And I'll just use my arrow key and move it down once or twice. Now I'm trying to save as much room as I can. I'll just use one down arrow move. Okay. So I'll do the same thing. I'll move these. Make sure that's on top. There we go. Move that to the top, and I'll move my down arrow once. Okay. So this first field is going to be suggested technician, and we're going to put in here optional, okay? Because they may not know who it should go to, okay? All right, so I have a comment here. Liliana, thanks for joining, by the way. I need the possibility to my users to book a room inside of an events app. My users must book the room before specifying every detail of the event. Okay. I think that maybe this is in, let me see here. Person who suggests. So I have a whole SharePoint list of video ideas. So I'm trying to think how I need the possibility to use to book a room inside. Okay, so it definitely sounds like a different application. So we won't cover that today. However, I'm sort of playing with the idea. I need to. You guys have filled out in the MS form video ideas, so I've asked for that. You guys have provided details. So what I think I'm going to do is perhaps on my lunch breaks, I might try to knock some of these out, answer some of these, and I'm just going to go in here and see if I can see if you've I because I that sounds familiar to me, Liliana, and I want to say let's see little okay. I don't see it in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to fill out that in the a video idea. Okay, so let me show you this. If you go Darrenese, and I'll say video idea out of that, and it's this video. And this is a live stream where I took 2 hours to build out a little app to sort of capture you guys' video ideas. So I get them all the time. And what I wanted to do with any type of data, you want to organize your data so it's just not all over the place. So you can find it whenever you need it, right? So when I'm ready to do a new video or something, I want to where it's at. Okay, so here to link to provide your ideas. Okay, so you see it's a form. Okay, and I'm going to copy this and provide it here for you, Liliana. If you don't mind filling that out, and I'll show you what that looks like real quick. It's a really simple form, and I do ask for your email address because when I do the video, I want to send you an email like, hey, I covered that what you were looking for. Okay, so it's in your best interest. I'm sure you want to you know see that video once I make it. Okay, and probably the way that I'll go about it for all these video ideas, and I have a Power Automate flow that takes that MS form data and puts it in SharePoint. Um, awesome, thanks. Well, thanks for the idea. I appreciate that. Probably what I'll do is I'll probably cover these. To be honest, the in the order of what's the simplest one I could do, like the quickest one I can, knock out quick. And then let's say there's somebody's asking for a full system or it's a large system, I might use that as an idea for a whole series. Like right now, we're building out a ticketing system together, and perhaps any one of person's ideas to build out a full system. So my idea, this is a coaching course where I help you guys build out a ticketing system. But you know what? Once I'm done, I'm going to create another course or a course that goes along with it, which is okay. Now we're going to create a knowledge base application, and that could coincide with that ticketing system. Or we might create something that's completely different, but's really in high demand, such as I get a lot of requests for, yeah, right here at the very top, boom, checklist inspection app. So I have a checklist inspection app, but it's a demo. Okay, so if you go here on YouTube and you do a search here, Darrenese inspection, also checklist. Right here, I've got this app. It's a little 11.5-minute video where I show you an example app that I did. It's got me tons of work on Fiverr. And it's a cool little app. And so if you want to check that out. And so I don't have a series of videos showing you how to build that, but there have been requests for that. So I think that will probably be another one. Now, not all of these little apps that I build will be as big as this ticketing system. I'm really taking my time with this ticketing system because the first one I'm doing with you guys, coaching guys. So I want the first one to be really solid. Now I did a garage app, a work order system app that's out there. But I pretty much go through there, and it's not really any coaching along with it. But I try to help people out in the comments as they're having issues. But this one is a coaching course, and as we build out other apps, there'll be playlists and some coaching to go along with those as well. Okay, so hope you guys like that idea. I'm always open to any new ideas. So eventually, yes, if you fill that out, eventually we'll get to it, or we'll address it in some way. Or maybe it's an app and I don't have it's a video idea that I don't have time to do a full series on. Well, I might create a little video and talk about how I would go about it. Perhaps that's all you need. But this is the Powerapps channel, and I like to show you guys how to write apps in Powerapps. So chances are we'll probably get around to building it. Okay, but so Liliana, just not only yourself but any other people that's like, I don't need a ticketing system, I need this system. If you guys come along with me, build this application with me, even though you may not need it. By the way, almost any organization needs a system like this. Okay. And I would probably charge between $8, 10, maybe $12,000 for this system. If somebody were to come to me and ask me to build it out for them. Okay. Even if I already have it written. Okay. And then what I would do is, and a lot of times people ask for customizations and stuff. I'd probably roll that all into one. So you're building something that is worth a lot of money. And so just consider the value of the skills that you're picking up as you're building this app with me. So Liliana, if you build this system, you might pick up a lot of concepts along the way. Like, oh, I know exactly how to build my app. He explained how you do this, how you set up your tables, how you do this, that. I know exactly what I need to do. And you may not even need me to cover that specific type of app. Okay. Because everything that we cover here, like, let's tabs. Okay. Well, you can have that in almost every application, having security rules. Okay. Menus, all this type of stuff that we have in this app, you're going to use in almost all of them. Okay. All right. So we've got this suggested technician. And what I'm going to do here is I want to tap into the Office 365 users. So I'm going to go into data sources. And we have a lot of data sources here. Let's click on add data, actually. Connectors. And it's right here, Office 365 users. So we'll make sure that's added there. And I don't know why it shows duplicate, but I just always click on the first one. Okay, so we know that's in there. Scroll down, there it is. And some will eventually have it in here. We need to send out emails and stuff. While we're here, let's go ahead and add Office 365 Outlook. Okay, so whenever they create a ticket, we should probably email them. Let them know, hey, we got your ticket. We should probably also email the technician it was assigned to, all that type of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and add that as well. Okay, so if I scroll down, anything new that you add as a data source, I think initially it sort of groups them by the type of data source. So like all the SharePoint lists are going to be together, and they're sorted alphabetically, unless regarding this grouping and also the sorting, if you add anything new, it's always going to be at the bottom. Okay, so just a mental note. Okay, so we've got that. Now I am going to go here. If you guys just bear with me, give me a moment. This will just take me a moment here to pull this up. Okay. Oh yeah, this is super, super easy. Okay. Oh, just messed that up. Let's see here. Let me open up my Notepad++. There it is. Okay, we got that. Okay, so this is a combo box. Okay, now if you guys are familiar with forms, something you're probably used to is you would probably, let's go over here to requests. Okay, notice our field types when we need to go into settings, list of settings. And I need to be watching my screen here. Let's move that to right there. And I'll zoom in so you guys can see this better. Okay, so here's all the fields. So we've got what is it? Suggested technician. Oh, I can't find it. Let's see. I don't see it. What? Maybe we need to add it. Okay, cool. I think I just realized that we needed to add that. So if we go back to our ticketing system, we have requester, the person requested. So for every person we're attaching to this ticket, we're capturing two pieces of information, their ID and their name. Okay. Now, typically what people do when they're doing a SharePoint list with a Power App is they'll like, oh, I need a column of type like a people picker, a person, a group, and they'll do that. And then over in a forum, they'll use a combo box and do all this stuff. And I don't recommend doing that. I don't recommend forums. So what I recommend doing is grabbing the requester ID and their name. Okay. For each one of these people that are going to be attached to the ticket. So we have the requester, we have the person affected, associated department, assigned to. So we don't have the suggested technician. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here, make sure that our ERD diagram is always up to date with whatever we do in our database or SharePoint list. So I'm going to add that. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to go over here and grab the exact text. I don't trust myself to spell things right, even though I know how to spell it, I might type it in wrong. So over here in our ERD diagram, and by the way, the link to this ERD diagram is in the Facebook group, of course, right? But I can paste it here as well, by the way. Okay, so we got that. Suggested technician. I don't like to have spaces in my column names. We'll say ID, and it will be integer. That's good. Now I notice that that's covered up by my picture here in the live stream. So I'm going to add in another new column, suggested technician, and we'll put in name. And this will need to be varchar in varchar. Okay, so we're good there. I'm going to save this. Whenever you make a change, for you, if you have an ERD diagram and this draw SQL, make sure we save it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the link for you guys. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it over here. You guys have it, so you guys can get to it easily. You know, it'll be in the Facebook group, but provided there for convenience. Okay, so we added it there. Now we need to go over here to SharePoint and add it here as well. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom where the create column is at and click on that. That's not what I wanted. Let's go back here and copy that. Right, so a few moments ago, I was talking about what people usually do that I don't recommend is they'll go over here and they'll select person or group, and then it will change the screen up quite a bit. And so I don't recommend doing that. So what we want to do is this needs to be suggested technician ID, and this will be a number. Okay. That's it. It just needs to be a number. And then we'll put the ID of that user. Now you might ask, you might be wondering, ID from where? Where are we getting that ID? Well, we'll get to that, okay? Because if you remember when we started designing this application over here in the site contents for this whole thing, we have got a table called users. And right now we don't have any users in it. But as we start to add them, there'll be an ID. Well, they're not. How are they going to be added there? Well, as a user comes to our application, we'll add them automatically to this. As they're referenced in any way, shape, or form, like within a combo box, what we'll do is we'll check to see if they're in there. If they're not in there, we're going to put them in. So then we'll get the ID and then we'll use that. Okay. So that's how it's going to be populated. And what's great about that is that we will get all kinds of other kinds of pieces of information there. Okay. All right. So, and when we get to that part, I've got a little app that I'll be looking to as well. So I'll pull that up. So you guys would be surprised how much copying and pasting I do from apps I've done previously. So, in a lot of ways, you guys see me doing live streams, and I'm just like writing apps right in front of you, just on the fly. Um, and you probably think that I just remember everything, but I don't. I can't. My memory's not that good. So anyway, I do that quite a bit. So we are going to go back here. Okay, so we've added the ID for suggested technician. We also need to add their name. There we go. Single line of text is good. I'm going to click OK. Okay, so that's in there now. Now, whenever you make a change in your database, your SharePoint list, you need to go over here and you need to update it. So what's our data source? Our data source is called, or should be called, requests. So we have so many data sources. I'm just going to type in requests. There we go. There it is. I'm going to refresh that data source. Okay. All right. So that's refreshed. Okay. Now, what are we going to do for the data source for these combo boxes? Now, we're going to set up this combo box just right. Okay. And then we're going to copy and paste. Okay. So we're going to take our time with this first one, and the other two are going to be much quicker. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to use some code. I'm going to copy and paste over. Click on data source. I've got the combo box selected. I'm going to go in the upper right corner, click on the word data source because we're not going to pull this down here. We're just click on data source. It says combo box sample, and I'm going to paste some code here, which you guys don't have yet, but I'm going to show you what it is. So we're going to search within our environment. Okay. So you are in an organization. So here I've got my organization, Nisus, which is my last name. And I'm searching with all the users within my organization. And I have a feeling that we're going to assign a lot of tickets to my wife, Nicole. Okay. All right. So we've got search user. The search term that this function is going to need is the search term. Okay. What we're searching for. And it's whatever they're typing in there. Okay. So for example, if you if you work now, I probably only have just a handful of users. So this top really wouldn't matter here. But if you're in a large organization where there's thousands upon thousands of users, then you might just want to bring back the top 20 results. So if you type in John Doe or something, or John Smith, you probably get a lot of them. Hopefully, even within a large organization like that, hopefully there wouldn't be 20 of them. Okay. Okay. So we've got that. And you know what? Let's go in here and type in my name. Now, I don't know why Orlando is there. That's a little weird. Why does it? That's really strange. Okay. Maybe we'll get to that, get to the bottom of that eventually here, but I'm going to type in my last name. Okay, so this isn't working quite right. You know what I think it is yeah, if we click on fields, it's pulling up city. So I live in Orlando. So the first primary text, let's just make that my name. The display name is what you want. It's got the first and the last name in there. And the search field, I'm going to make that exactly the same. Okay, so we'll put that in there. Now we could put in here, let's make it a person here. The image, it's not going to allow me to do that for some reason. Or maybe it's just built in. Secondary text, we could have something like title. Let's see if I've got a job title. Okay, that might be good. All right, so let's try this again. So we got niece, and you see we have Nicole is the only one that's got her title filled out. Let's assign her. Okay, there she is. All right, how you guys like that? So we got that in there. And then what else do we want to set? I think for now, I'm going to leave it as is. Okay. So we got suggested technician. Okay. The next thing will be requester. Copy and paste those two guys there. Okay, I want to use the down arrow once. And for here, let's say, um, okay, requester. Any thoughts on fluent controls for the dropdown? Fluent controls. Either I'm having a brain fart or something. What do you mean by fluent? Fluent controls. Yeah, let me know what you mean by that, Gerald. I know they've got like there's some type of UI pack that you can make your controls look cooler, um, but it requires. So if that's what you're talking about, Microsoft has released this design pack where you can install it within your environment, but you have to use Dataverse in order to install it. And there's a lot of prerequisites. I think it's a premium connector. So um, yeah, Fluent as in Teams. I think Teams uses some type of Fluent. There's like versions of controls. Yeah. So I messed around with creating an application within Teams. I didn't like it very much, but I noticed all the controls look different. And I think that it uses that design pack. So yeah, let me know what you mean there, Gerald. And the reason why I don't have videos on it because I don't want to cover anything if it doesn't apply to my audience, you know. So if all of you guys are telling me that we have Dataverse, we have all the licensing, we can convince the IT department to install components for us, um, then I'll cover it. I'll do it. But I think most people, when they find out what's required, they're like, "Oh, I can't use that." You know, and they get excited. You know, Microsoft's like, "Oh, yeah, you know, use this thing out here." But if you start to look at it, it's like, "Oh, well, maybe later," you know. But yeah, if you guys are interested in that, I'll cover that. I won't be covering it today because I don't even use it. So um, so anyway, all right, let's move on. And I'll keep an eye on the comments just in case, Gerald, if you want to clarify exactly what you mean by that, I'll talk about it. If not, we'll just keep on trucking. Okay. So the requester, this will this will be the person that is the originator of the ticket. Okay. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to grab, well, we've copied and pasted everything. So we'll have that. So the requester, I could go in here. And so this should give me, okay, I would expect that to automatically populate. Okay. The good thing is you can copy them from Teams and paste them. Okay. That's a good tip. I like that. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I one problem, what I could do is I can improve my template a little more, copy and paste all those controls into my copy controls from here, so that if you guys are using my template, you guys can use those, or I can, if you have your own template, then you can do the same, because I want all the controls to pull from my dynamic theming. Yeah. All right. So we got request now. I want that to appear dynamically. So what I'm gonna do is I need to go over to advanced. So if you click on a combo box, go into advanced. There's some fields over here that we need to change. Okay, so there's a default property and there's also default selected items. Okay. And I'm looking at my other example and I'm looking to see which ones I'm going to pull over here. Victor, yes, date picker looks very nice from Teams. Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll check that out a little more if you guys have an interest in that. Um, Another thing I wanted to cover perhaps was Figma as a design. Sort of replace what we did in Balsamic to sort of create your wireframes and your design. So if you guys have a lot of interest in that, I'll probably be covering that at some point as well. Okay. Okay, so how we do this, I'm going to go over to the default. I'm going to find the default somewhere here. Okay. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Office 365 users, user profile V2. You always want to use the latest version, right? And then let's do user email. Okay, so I'm going to save. And then what I'm going to do, just to make sure that this is working properly, I'm going to add a button to the screen. And I'm going to make it this weird blue color that clashes because I'm going to eventually delete it. So it's combo. So this button, I'm going to say set. Okay, see how it disappeared there? You know, it should actually. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I'm going to close it and then reopen it real quick because I just want to make sure I know exactly how it's going to look. The app is fresh. Is it because I went in there and I selected myself before I did the default. So I just want to make sure that it is loading right. And of course, it takes a moment to load up here. All right, we're going to allow it to use that connector. We definitely want that in there. So, so after we get these three done, we're going to be moving on to department responsible, the priority level. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to click on this item here. What does it come up as? Okay, did not pull that up. So that makes me believe. Okay, if we go over here to advanced, the default, excuse me, may not be the way that I want to. I'm going to cut that for a moment. Okay, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a different way of doing that. So the app that I did, I set not only the default property of a combo box, but also the default selected items. Okay. And but I don't know that both of them need to be set. It seems like only one should really need to be done up like that. Okay. So what I'll do here is I will go to default selected items. I'm going to paste this code I'm going to show you. Okay. So it looks very similar to what we had for the items. And look, it brought me up right away. Okay. So that works. So now, because that works, I'm not going to set default because it's not needed. Okay. Unless there's some reason why we need to. Okay. All right. So also for this find items, I'm going to go in here and find where that is set at. Because I want to give it a little bit better of like a hint text. I'm looking for it. I don't see it. Did I pass it up? Yeah, there it is. I did. All right. So instead of find items, it's like set this if you know who might be the best person for the job. It's too long. It's too long. I see you guys' comments. I'll get to them in just a moment here. I just want to finish this thought. Uh, I don't know. What do we want to say here? I definitely want to capture this information. I think it is essential to this screen, but um, so best a technician, I guess, describes it. I just want to type in something there besides just fine item. Um, Perhaps the best for the job. Okay, and I might put in there if known. I know it's long, but I mean the combo box is pretty wide, so and it fits, right? So I'm going to go back in the comments here. All right, so Gerald detailed my understanding about flow controls in separate Facebook posts. Okay, cool. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, so if we got like little side shoots of conversation, things that we need to address, we can do that. I do appreciate you mentioning it though, because it makes for a good conversation during these live streams. What does top one do? That's a great question. Okay, so I'm going to go. Okay, so if you look at the items real quick here, let's look at that real quick. And by the way, data is king. Nice to see you, man. Okay, so we've got top 20. Okay, so if you're in a large organization that's got 100,000 users, do organizations have hundreds of thousands of users? um, you only want to pull back a certain amount. Okay, so like I was talking about John Smith. Hopefully, there's not 20. You can make that 50. So what it's going to do is it's a query, and it's going to say only show me the first top whatever. So if you start to type in Smith, SMI, and it starts showing back and it starts to show results as you're typing, as you're sort of searching for all the users. Um, you don't want to pull back thousands of users. Of course, Powerapps can only handle 2,000 at the most, right? So, and just to make it as efficient as possible, you're just telling it like, hey, I only want the top so many. Okay. So that's what that's for. Now, in the case in which you asked over here for default selected items, we have top one. Okay. So pretty much we're now an email is fairly unique. So it's only going to return one. And I believe this top might be required. So I'm going to say, hey, just give me the first one that matches this email. Okay. So that's why I have that top one there. And is this mobile responsible? No. That's a great question. I know that's something that a lot of people ask about is how to create a responsive design and that type of thing. Um, I don't like to introduce any more concepts that are necessary. Um, Whenever I'm doing videos, because I don't want to take away from the one thing that we're trying to cover in it. Now, I will tell you my take on responsive design. And by the way, if you guys aren't familiar with what responsive means, typically the word responsive means if you ask something of someone, they're going to respond. And if they don't respond, or if they take a long time to respond, you say, oh, they're not responsive. Okay. Or let's say in a website, you might say, oh, that website loaded up really fast. It's really responsive. No, when you're talking about websites, what responsive means is that it responds to usually the width of the device. Okay. So, does a website or a web application in this case, does it respond to the what do you call that? The pretty much the screen, okay, or the window in which it's being viewed. Okay, so if you're looking at on a phone, and my phone is very thin, at least on this front screen here, is it all going to fit? Can I view it? That type of thing. And as time has gone on, websites have become more and more responsive. If you look at a website that was done 10, 15, 20 years ago, you try to pull it up on a phone like mine, it'll just be in the very top corner and you can't see anything. You got to zoom in and move around. It just makes things much more easily viewable on mobile devices, in my opinion. Or if you have somebody that's got a really tiny screen, and they're working on a computer, it sort of adjusts. Now, my opinion of responsive design, and if you guys are interested in responsive design, I can cover that. Okay, I can create. It would be a separate video, of course. Um, and I need to hit these buttons here, bring back my tabs. The thing is, Powerapps automatically moves and adjusts this. Okay, so this is a landscape type of orientation. If I go into settings, you can see here for display, it's a landscape, and you can set these things here. But the big thing to look at is scale to fit. Okay, so if I bring this up on a really wide, I mean like a really wide monitor, okay, um, it's going to take up as much height as possible. But there's going to be some space on the sides, just like how we have here. We got space over here, space over there. Some people that really bothers them, and I will tell you, in most of my apps, I would say like 90, 95% of the time, people don't even complain about this thing on the side. And it would, if it was really responsive, it would take up all the space there. And Dev says another word, all device compatibility. Yeah, that's another way of saying that. Absolutely. Now, I regard that as like a visual compatibility um, for the device screens. Okay, so you can unlock that, and there are responsive things that you can add to an application. For example, display. No, it's going to be under layout. Okay. And you'd use containers and these horizontal and vertical containers. And as the width of the app changes, then you would use those. So now I'm not going to cover that in this video. So if you guys have a lot of interest, and in fact, if you want to, I have Dev. If you look up in the chat here, I've got a little link for video ideas. So if you'd like me to cover how to do responsive design within Powerapps, go ahead and enter there. I'm sure you're not the only one who wants to see that. So, so yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But this particular one, it's I guess if you're gonna say it doesn't respond to all kinds of different formats, the answer is no. Besides what you see, it's gonna scale it. Um, and what my experience is, if you need it to go on a mobile device, I typically when I gather the requirements, I say, does this need to be used on mobile devices? Most of the answers are no. Sometimes they'll say, well, yeah, every once in a while. I'm like, okay, well, just pull up your screen and turn it sideways. And the app will appear here. Now on my screen, I got one of these things that folds out. So it turns into a tablet, So if I can do this and then I turn it this way and I got plenty of space and I don't care if it's responsive or not. It looks great. But so, and in some cases, like, listen, this app is only going to be used on mobile devices. Whenever you create a new Power Apps app, it gives you one of two choices. Is it going to be like a tablet type of orientation or a landscape, or do you need a mobile device? And it will say portrait. Okay. What's great about what Dev is bringing up is that you could create one app that would just automatically sort of morph into whatever is needed. That's sort of nice. Okay. I just don't have a lot of demand for that in the past. But if somebody makes a big deal out of it up front, like, okay, well, I'll need to account for that in the design and create it with these, the containers and all that type of stuff. So, all right, so that's all I will say about that, and I will continue to move on here. Okay, so we've set up that little text there, and you know what? I'm gonna put Nicole's name in here. Let's put that in. Okay. There's the COO of my organization. Okay, so we have that. By the way, Nicole owns 49% of my company. All right, so I am going. Okay, so the requester. Okay, what's the next thing? I'm looking at my wireframe here, and then you got person affected. Okay, so most of the time you're filling out this ticket, and the person affected is you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two controls. I'm going to copy and paste down here. Okay, move it down just a little bit. Okay. Now I'm going to turn on my little debug thing here, and I'm going to make a copy of that little square guide. I'm going to move it down. Okay. And this is pretty much working out for the space. Now, what I'd like to do is probably make this one a little, maybe move it up a good 2 pixels. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these and move it up. Okay, and use down arrow once. Okay, and you see it fits perfectly. Everything aligns and fits in there just right. Everything looks like it belongs. Um, Now, something we need to account for is to have like a save button. Okay, change the status of the ticket. Okay, so we might need to change things around a little bit, or we can put the save button at on this bar here. So I'm not going to worry about that now. We're just going to continue to work here. All right. So if you look at our wireframe here, we need department responsible and priority level. Those two things. Okay. Now we have drop downs for those two things. If you look at the screen or our backup, we had those in there. Okay. So I'm going to get department, and I'm also going to get priority level. Is there anything else that we should grab here? I think ticket category, the service desk person would set that for the user. I don't trust customers to set their own categories. I might say assignment type and default that to an individual. By the way, the other assignment type between individual is a department. So if you need a whole department to handle something, or you don't know, perhaps you just need to assign it to like a group of people, you can do that. Okay, so I'm going to copy those 3 controls. Click on the container and then paste from there. Okay. Add those guys in. And in our design, we have the department first. I'll put it right beside here. Make sure everything lines up. 2, 3, 4. Okay. But if you look at our design, what I like to do, instead of having drop downs all over the place, what I don't like about drop downs, you can't see all the values. And what I like about this, like having like maybe a gallery or even a list box, you can see all the values, and it encourages people to pick a different item. If they just see, oh, information technology or whatever, perhaps they don't even know that they could fill out a ticket for facilities to have their queue moved or something like that. So, and also for priority level, we can have a little bit of a description for each of these things. Okay. Now I'm wondering, when we did our priorities here, did we have a little description? No. Okay, so if we did that, we'd have to sort of add that to our thing here, which is no problem. Okay. Okay, so what I like to do is I'm going to keep this assignment type as a drop down list, but these two guys, I think I'd like to have be because we have so much space here. I think I might want to do galleries. I think it looks a little better. Okay. Um, and there is an example of an app that shows just exactly what I mean by all that. So I'm going to bring up a new browser window. I'm going to pull it up. It'll take a few moments to bring up, but I'm going to show you a really cool example of what I did and how I used that. I think you guys would like to see that. People like to see examples of Power Apps, including myself. All right, so I'm going to go into my right environment. So I do a lot of work for Holiday Inn, um, and I have got a application here that has this. So instead of having a drop down, I've got a gallery, and I've got little images in there, and it sort of looks cool. And it was an image I used from the Matthew Devaney website with all of his icons. I took something from there, and I set up an exact color that I liked that coincided with all the everything there. All right, so what I'm going to do while that's loading up is I'm going to go to copy controls from here because I've got galleries and stuff that I like to copy. Okay, I'm going to grab that little gallery. We'll use that one. Control 0. Go. Paste that in here. Okay. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these drop down lists. Well, these two. Cut. Click outside the container. I'm going to paste here. Put those right here, at least somewhere here. Get them out of the way. All right. So here is the example that I was talking about. Okay. So they wanted a Power App to allow people to request their own Power Apps environment. Okay, so you fill out your name, the purpose of the request, like, hey, my boss told me I need to have my own sandbox, the reason for the request, all that type of stuff. I've got a little icon. So I just need a trial. I need something that's just I'm just doing a presentation. I need a little trial thing. But as you click on these different things, the little description displays over here. Okay. So this is straight from the Microsoft documentation. These are all the different environment types that you can have. And it does a description, security, all that type of stuff. The only one that's missing is the default environment, which everybody has, and you can't really create a second default environment. So of course that's why it's not here. But yeah, I need a production environment. I use a little Docker icon. I thought that was sort of cool. But anyway, so that's sort of what I was thinking. I'd sort of like to use that instead of drop downs all over the place. Now, priority, I did use this, which is what we have over in our app. But this is the amount of space I had, so I'll change controls based on how much screen real estate I have to work with. So, what do you guys think of that? You guys like that design? Okay, so assigned department. Okay, so here's the drop down we were using before. And what's nice about keeping the controls here is, I want it sorted. I want it filtered to only the active ones, all that type of stuff. So for this data source, I'm going to paste that in there. Okay. Now this is to be expected when you change data sources. So instead of that, we'll use title. There we go. Like that. And I might just make it align with the bottom of that text box over here. Okay. So I think that looks nice. Okay. Ticket priority. Okay. Let's copy and paste this. And priority here. Another way you could do this, you could use list boxes, you can use radio buttons. I just love galleries. I think they did a great job when they created this. Now, the width of these two, it doesn't need to be so wide. Maybe 260. Now, I like to take up as much space as I can, but I don't want to go over. So let's do something like 280, 90, 300. Okay. Something else I'll do is I will make a copy of my little square here. Okay. Maybe 15. What I can do here is I can select these two things and move it back a little bit. Okay. And you know what? If we're going to be consistent, which we should strive to be consistent when we design our applications. You know, what I could do is sort of move this up against a square. So that tells me that we've got a little more space to work with. So let's go with 330. Okay, I'll move that in here. Let's zoom in just to make sure we're getting close here. And I think for me, it's close enough. I might, yeah, that's looking good enough for me. Okay, so for ticket priority, we'll go in here. Okay, it's already been brought over. Okay, low, medium, high. Okay. Okay, so we got 330. Set the width of these 330. Okay. And it's going to default to individual because it's the first one, but it might be a good idea just to type that in here. Okay. And I like the default to be information technology. I like the default to be low. Maybe we should make that medium. All right, so let's go find the default property. Okay, I should probably just go over here, look for it. It's all alphabetical. All right, default. It's probably looking for a record, to be honest. Okay, so ticket priority. So we already have a filter here. Yeah. And we're going to be doing a lookup. And title equals medium. Okay. Now let's give us those double lines below. It's a warning that could be a delegation issue. We're not going to have more than 2,000 priorities, so I'm going to ignore that warning. Okay, and also what I'll do is I'll do the same thing for the assigned department, just in case we start entering some more departments, and it's it's not the first one in the alphabetical order. Okay, so let's go find the default here. There we go. Information technology, and we're going to be looking at departments. Okay. Now, just having the text individual, that works with the drop down just fine. Okay. All right, very good. I'm going to hit Control S whenever you make a lot of changes. Make sure you hit that Control S. You have that restore point. All right, now that we have this, we don't need these drop downs anymore. Okay. And I don't need something that resets a box there, so I'm going to take that out. I think something I will do, because I'm fairly comfortable with the tabs that we have at the top. I'm going to hit Control A. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to move that over into the app on start. And I'll just put it at the bottom here. Okay, so it's there. And now I can just delete that button. So do a little bit of cleanup. And to be honest, I think we've got all those controls here. Okay. So at least we got this first tab, all the controls out here. Um, okay. So we need two buttons. Okay. Well, let's go get some buttons. Go down here to copy controls from here. All right, so here are our buttons. And I'll copy those two. Those two look the best. I don't use list boxes that often. They sometimes take up too much real estate. Okay. Yeah, actually, I use list boxes very little. And I'm sort of making my gallery sort of look like list boxes, I guess. Galleries just give you so much control. I don't know that you can make them look like that, to be honest. Can you? Um, so yeah, there's controls I just don't use very often, if at all, such as forms, data tables. Um, so anyway, thanks for your input. Yeah. All right. So we need to do a paste here. I think for right now, until we decide otherwise, I think what I want to do is just keep the buttons up here for now. And you know what? I'm going to use my little square there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. Okay, so this one over here. In fact, let's see how it looks. Okay, there we go. We can say save. And over here, we can say close ticket. All right. Now we could put those buttons right here. I just want to see how we design out the rest of the tabs. Okay. We probably will have space. So generally, I like to have buttons, call to actions, like the main thing that you want the user to be able to do, in this case, save, in the lower right corner. Okay. Now, there's things that we could do. We could have these two take up half the space, okay, and move this up. So we can move this rectangle up a little more. So those buttons, we'll have buttons along the bottom. Okay. We don't have to use buttons. We could use some cool looking graphics, some SVGs or whatever. Okay. Okay. I'm feeling good so far. What do you guys think? So we have a save button. Of course, we're gonna have a patch in there. Let's get going on our patch. Okay. So we've got I got the show spinner. So we're about to do a database operation. So I'm gonna turn that spinner on, and then when we're done with our database operation, we're gonna turn it off. Okay. And I've got videos on this. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if I run this, this is what I talk about. It's a weight spinner. It's telling the user like, hey, we're working here. Don't do anything. Don't try to, of course, they try to click on something. It's not going to do anything. Okay. And then toggles it off. Everything comes back. If you don't use that, it just sort of grays out the button, you know? So users tend to like those weight spinners. Okay. So, all right, this is what we're going to do. Before we start doing our patch, we need to make sure that we've created some good names for our controls. Okay. So, we've given our container a good name. Okay. Well, let's start here at the top. We got, what's this rectangle? Okay. Well, that's whatever. We have a button. Let's call this. Also, I like to put into the control name. See, control names, they have a global scope. So if you create a button called BTN save, and you've got another screen that's got a save button, you can't name a button on another screen BTN save because as a global scope, there'll be like a conflict between those names. So what I like to do is, we see button close ticket. Okay, that's what I would want to call it. But we are on edit ticket screen. So what I would say is we'll say edit ticket underscore close ticket. Okay. and it'll become more clear whenever we get to the patch and also when we work on other screens. So we don't have these weird _1, _2 at the end. Okay. So it's because controls have global scope. Sometimes you can get controls confused that are on from a different screen, and if you do that, you got a bug. As a developer, you want to do everything you can that will keep you from having a bug down the road. Of course, everybody knows bugs are bad, but bugs are hard to find. Somebody will say, I click on this button and nothing happens, or all this data over here gets deleted or messed up. And you're like, what? And you're trying to figure out a problem. You got some code out there, and so, oh, well, it's called the button save, and there's the button save, but you may not remember there was a button save on another screen, and you're actually referencing that one. So you might sit there for like I don't know, a few hours trying to figure it out. um, and as your application grows in size, grows in complexity, you want to do everything you can to avoid that stuff because as the more complexity grows with the application, you're going to encounter some bugs, some nasty bugs that takes up tons of time. So after you deliver an application, you think, "Oh, I'm done." No, somebody's going to find some bugs. You might try your best, but somebody will find some bugs as data entry is done, as they're using the app, and you're like, "Oh, well, it works fine on my machine," or And so the first step in debugging and solving a problem is recreating it on yours. And sometimes you're not able to recreate it. So I do see a comment coming in by Gerald. For what it's worth, it will take me a long time to build what's been covered this morning. Tremendous learning, however. Thank you. Well, you're welcome. Thanks for letting me know. All right. So we're gonna reuse a lot of this. Okay. It's this naming here. So I'm gonna copy that over here on the save button. Okay, so this is button 5. Well, there was another button. This is a copy pasted, so just added a sequential number. We don't like that. Button ticket, and we'll say save. Okay, and we can actually put the word submit in there instead, but we'll make that dynamic maybe a little later. Okay, so we're just trying to get some data in there, so we have some good buttons there. Okay, so the first thing that we're working with is this submit request subject to. Okay, so I'm going to paste what I have on the clipboard. Instead of button, you see txt edit ticket, change subject. Okay, and then I'm going to copy this because I want that txt. I'm going to go through and make sure I have all my text. And I only have 2 text boxes, so there we go. And we'll say body. Okay, now we got these drop downs, and something I want to show you guys. I plan on creating a whole video for this for coding standards and guidelines. Microsoft has a coding standards. Let's see if that comes up here. Okay, I'll copy that one. Okay, so if you do a search for Powerapps and coding guidelines, this will come up. Okay, Powerapps Canvas app coding standards and guidelines. And they've got what they call a white paper. And it talks a little bit about it, and then they say thank you. And there's the link. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this link with you guys so you guys can get to it. All right. And while that's going, Michelle says, I did that the other day. I copied and pasted and did not change the name. So it was referencing the other page. Yeah. Yeah. So that could be a really nasty bug. So cool. All right. So you guys have a link to that. Now, they tell you how to name controls in here, and I try to stick to this as much as possible. A lot of times, like for drop downs, I've been an application developer for over 20 years, and in .NET for drop down, it's been a convention to always use DDL, yeah, DDL, drop down list. But let's see what they have here. They have DRP. So in Power Apps, you really should be calling your drop downs DRP. I don't really care for that, probably because I've been using DDL. But so anyway, and they don't have all the controls here. So what if you're using a control and it's not listed here? Then I guess you sort of make up your own, but you want a little 3-character identification. And perhaps maybe it's most important that that you don't do exactly what it says here, but maybe you're consistent throughout your whole application, or that all the developers at the organization you're working at are all using the same conventions. If you're a freelancer, perhaps no one's going to be looking at your code, but you just need to make it maintainable so that it's consistent throughout. Okay, so I'm going to try to stick to this as much as I can. So DRP. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to paste. Nope, that's not what I wanted to paste. DRP. Okay, and then I'm going to hit enter for now because I need edit ticket. Edit ticket underscore. And this is suggested. I'll just say tech. I mean, our control name is already pretty long right now. And make sure I have this copied. Okay. I'll go to this next one here, edit ticket, and I'll say request door. Okay. Now, this next one, we need to actually change this. This is a person affected. You know what, guys? You guys might have caught this. Those three controls that we're just working with, it's not a drop-down. It's actually a combo box, so it should be CMB. We only have one drop-down, and it's this guy right here. So I'm going to rename this real quick. Sign that type. Okay. So for we have three combo boxes. So this needs to be CMB. Why didn't one of you guys catch me? That's all right. So let's say CMB. Okay, CMB. And then these are galleries. So now hard to remember what I prefixed that stuff with. Hopefully that's not a conflict. Okay. Edit ticket underscore. So galleries, I'm pretty sure it's GAL. Yeah, remember that. And we'll say department, or the abbreviation for department that everybody's used to. Data is king. Documentation and consistency is key, especially when someone else is taking over your work. Absolutely. I agree with you. Data is king. Do you have any experience with that? It's funny because I know his situation. I believe if I remember, you're taking over someone else's access databases. And you're recreating those in Powerapps. Absolutely. So that's actually what I'm dealing with at one of my places is that there are 600 access databases that I need to upgrade into Powerapps, and there's no documentation. There's no documentation. So yeah, documentation, the consistency, absolutely. I agree with that 200%. All right, so we've got that one. Let's go over and set the priority. All right, so we got that. Type. I think we're good to go. I think we have enough stuff renamed that it makes sense to go in here, because my rule that I like to stick with is if you're going to be inside the coding window here, this FX window, you're referring to a control and it's called text box 14_2. You should really rename those controls. If you're not referencing it in any other expression, then perhaps it doesn't matter so much. Okay. But in this case, it does. So let's do patch. You guys familiar with patch? Patch takes 3 parameters. Okay. And the first parameter is the data source. So what we're going to say here is request. Okay. Requests. I'm looking for it. Yeah. Requests, plural. Okay. That is our data source. That's our database table. That's our SharePoint name. Now, the second parameter is referencing, as you can see up here in this information here. Okay, source. The second one is the record itself. Well, what I want to do is I'm not going to provide record because at this point, I just want to add new records to the data source. Okay. So there is a way to do that within Power Apps. If you want to get a brand new, fresh record to add to the data source, we're going to say defaults. Okay. Now we're going to have to refer to requests in there so it knows what new fresh record to create it from, what data source to create it from. Okay. And then the third parameter here are all the fields that you want to either change or insert into that record. Okay. And that is how you do a patch. It's fairly straightforward, simple. Now, back when I was learning Power Apps, I was using Forms. Forms is really simple, straightforward. And I heard about this patch, like, oh, that sounds that sounds scary. I don't want to use it. But after I got used to it once, I'm like, oh, this is easy. I should have been using this much sooner. Okay, so the very first thing that we want to do is probably the subject. Okay, all right. So we'll do subject there. And we have a txt edit ticket. Let's type that in. Okay, here's our subject. Now you always want to make sure when you're referencing control in your patch statement, you just don't leave your control name there because you'll get an error. And sometimes when you have a lot of fields in there, you may not see it, but you always need to say dot text. Okay, dot text. And then we'll move on to the body of the ticket. txt, and let me do a paste. Nope, that's not gonna work. I want to copy all of this. Here's the body, dot text. Okay. I'm gonna control S to save as we go along. All right, so Liliana, what is the best way to document a Power App? Well, I'll tell you how I document, and somebody might say, well, that's not the best way, which is comments. Okay, so what I do is look at this. This is my application template. Okay, and so if you buy my application template, you can get all these comments. So I like to define all of my global variables here, and I comment. So I've got my name and my email address. So if somebody takes on my application, and I'm no longer on the organization or I've moved on from that position. If you don't have that, the person's trying to maintain it. They want to know some information like, hey, what were you thinking? Were you got to be careful as you ask this? What were you thinking when you were doing that? It's awful. No, is hey, I'm having a hard time with this app. Can you help me out? So if that type of information is at the top, so this is how I document things. I also document things with videos. Of course, I run a YouTube channel, so that probably comes. I don't know that it comes natural. It's something that I learned to do, but I myself I like to consume video content rather than written content. A lot of times people think of written content for documentation, and what I find is, as they say, an image or a picture speaks 1,000 words. Well, how much does a video? You know, and so if I would think out of 100 people, if you surveyed people, like how many people would rather have like a 10-minute video describing everything that you'd want to know about an app, or would you want a 100-page document or a 50-page document? I think most people would say video. So I leave comments, and also so I have a whole, I think it's a 45-minute video. So if you guys were to purchase my Jumpstart kit here, I know some of you have, is I have a 45-minute video showing you every single feature. Okay, so that's the documentation I have for that in here and in there. So I think Data is King added something here. Create comments in your formulas. Okay, there you go. Yeah. So as we're here in our code here, yeah, add comments in here. I mean, it's obvious. Well, we're doing a patch, so we're updating the data source here. Okay. Renaming controls, create documentation screen. Yes, that is something else. That's a great idea. So what you could do is you can create a whole screen, call it documentation. Okay. And you could have a listing of, let's see, all the variables that you have. And, you could create a screen for every screen that the user sees. You can create another screen with the name. Like, see how I've got this submit request screen, and I have another one called submit request screen backup. Okay. Well, you can have a submit request screen documentation, and you can have all the documentation for that whole screen in another screen with a bunch of labels all over the place, or however you want to do it. It could be HTML. that's another idea. I've seen a lot of application templates actually do that. They'll have one screen for the whole application, and they'll have some comments out there. Okay, so yeah, awesome. And Gerald, yeah, giving thumbs up. Very cool, guys. All right, so we've got these two fields. I'm going to bring this up a little bit so I can see what we're doing here. Okay, so the next thing I know is a combo box, and it is suggested technician ID. Okay. Now, what are we going to do here? Because they're not currently in the users table just yet, right? I think I'm going to hold off on that for now. But what I will do is I can grab the suggested technician name, and we could go in here and we could say CMB, right? CMB edit ticket. And this is technician. Yes, just a tech. I could grab their name by saying display name. First we need to say selected. Okay, selected dot display name. Okay. In fact, just to show you what that's going to have in there, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put in a label here. And I'm going to show what it is. Boom, Nicole Neese. Okay. So you can get at that. What is the ID of Nicole Neese in our table here? Okay. So we got users and there's nobody in there yet. Okay. So what we should do here is we should do some stuff up here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we could also get at their email address, which is it is unique within an organization. You're not going to have two people with the same email address. Okay. So instead of display name, we'll say email, mail, mail. So that's her email address. Okay. So I'm going to grab that. I'll need that for what I'm about to do. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, open up this coding window a little more. I think I'm going to create a context variable, which is a variable that has the context of this screen. So it's not a global, it doesn't conflict with any other global variables. So if you're going to use a variable just on a single screen, you always want to use context variables, okay? And in some cases, what I do is I pass around values. So I try to avoid globals as much as I can because they'll get you in trouble. Like if your application grows, you might create more and more globals, and you might create two global variables that have different names. Thinking like, I need a variable for this. Well, you already created it on some other screen, so now you got two variables running out there with different values when you're expecting them to have the same value. All that type of stuff. So context variables are recommended. And I do have a video that talks about it. And how you use context variables is you say update context. Okay. Use curly braces there. Semicolon. All right. So recommended best practice from that white paper I showed you from Microsoft is we name all of our context variables with LOC, short for local. Local. And this is going to be suggested tech. Okay. And let's go do a lookup. Okay, we're going to go do a lookup on users. Okay. So lookup has got 2 to 3 parameters. The first parameter is the data source. Second parameter is the criteria. So we want to go find the user where their email address is mail that was from the person that was selected in that combo box, which is what I just pasted there. Okay. All right. So we're going to go get that. And then I always like to sort of break this down a little bit. Okay. Code a little cleaner, easier to read. Okay, so we've got that, and then we've got okay, so we have a variable here. Now, if they're blank, if okay, we'll check on that variable is blank. All right, well now we need to insert. So we're going to be using lots of patch here. Okay. All right, so we'll do a patch on the user. Okay. Okay, and we'll do defaults just like we're using below, defaults for users. And we need to specify all the values. Okay, so we already know there is a title. Well, there's a first and last name. Title we'll use as their full name. Okay, so let's just do that. We'll do title, and we're going to grab their display name. Okay, we'll grab that. Now, their first name. Okay, so I'm not getting any IntelliSense for that, so I'm going to need a comma in there. First name. What we can do is grab the first. So what we'll do is we'll take that full name and we'll do a split on it, which will give us an array, two values. Okay, so we'll do a split, function split, take something and it splits it up into two or more values, like almost like a table. Okay. If you're a programmer, then you're very familiar with the word array. So it sort of gives you like single column array. All right, so split, and we're going to look for a space in there, and that's how it's going to split it. If it has a space in there, it's going to split that up. Okay, so we've got in this case, Nicole space knee, so we'll get Nicole. So split gives you multiple values, and we just want the first value. So we'll say first. Okay, so that should work for the first name, and then I'm doing a lot of copying and pasting here. So for the last name. Okay, and we don't want first, we want last. Okay, that should give us the first and last name. All right. The next thing that we want to capture is email. And we have that up here. Got that. We'll put that in there. What other fields can we grab right now? Well, I mean, we could grab their phone, department ID. Okay. Phone. See if that's in there. Almost don't want to. I don't want to display the wife's phone number on the screen. If you guys don't mind. All right. So we've got that. So we could add more there. But I think what we want to do is we want to have the application administrators go in and add in more details if they want to. Okay, so we're going to leave that there. Okay. And now that we have that, what we could do is I want to populate this. All right, so okay, so in this case is blank. So this thing was blank. We do a patch, and then I want to have this code execute again now that we know the data is in there. Okay. Now let's see here. Okay, this should be indented a little bit. There you go. Okay, so that should give us the technician. Okay, and now that it's been inserted, now we've got an ID. So now we gotta say, boom, ID. Look at that. What do you guys think? Okay, we do need a comma there. It is king. What if you had a last name with a hyphen? Would you split out? Yeah. Well, that's a good question, Date is king. This is meant, I almost want, what I was going to say is that was, we're just going to grab a value. So we have something sort of like a suggested first and last name for that user. Um, a lot of times I like to rely on a human actually seeing a full name, especially if it's complex like that. Like, oh no, you might have junior or senior at the end. I mean, the whole display name might have a bunch of stuff. Um, I don't know if I'm used to it not giving me. Let me just check something here. We've got this label here. Let's add another label. Okay. Let's see if there is a property in here that will just give us the first name. So I don't see first name. I know there might be a surname that gives the last name. So we could use that. What do you think of that? So we could do that. Um, yeah, let's do that. Okay. Probably a good alternative there. Thanks for the question. I appreciated that. You guys are getting me to think. Now, do you see what happened there? So I'm trying to get back to the code I was just at, and there's a little error. And I clicked on edit in the formula bar. And look what it says. It says false. Isn't that weird? So just in case you guys ever see that, go there and click on it again, and then it will finally bring it up. It's crazy. All right. So for last name, I'm going to use this. Surname. Excellent question. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to test this out first. I don't want to test it all together. When you test something, you want to test a little subset, very granular. Because if you try to test everything once, something doesn't work right. Like, well, what part didn't work? So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to add in myself a little button here. Okay, put that in here. And let's see what the problem is. First name does not match text record. Okay. Oh, I'm glad I did this. Okay. So that gives us, okay, the split. Okay. So what we're looking at is like split returns a column type called result. You see that? So I just hit dot result. So we need to add that in there in our other button. That would have given us an issue. Okay. Well, okay. Good thing we did that. Okay. I know she's not in there because there's nobody in there. I'm going to run this and I'm going to hit this button. Okay. And I don't see any little red X. So I know there's no error. And I just refresh this. And let's see if she came up here. There we go. Nicole Neves, the email address is active because that's set up as default is active. We should probably, I like to be explicit when I do that, but okay. This is looking good, guys, and we have an ID. All right. So whenever they come back in, if this is executed the next time, we're going to go through here. We're going to go do a lookup. So it will not be blank. So none of this will be executed. Okay. And we'll come down here and do that. Okay. Let me, I'm trying to think of, I do have another application. You guys remember when I told you like how will the users get in here? I like this to be as complete as possible. So if there were 100 people that use this, I want them all to be in here. I want to sort of front load as much data in here as possible. Okay. Also, there is something else that happens if you go into the list settings, I have a photo in here as multiple lines of text, and you don't want to show that in the SharePoint view because it makes the SharePoint list a little sluggish. Um, okay, and it's easier to grab somebody's photo one person at a time like this. So what I like to do in the app on start and a lot of my applications, I don't do this in my application template because um, it's not bound, it's not tightly coupled to any data source. So that's why I don't do that. But in almost every application, I'll create a users table like this. So I've got a good listing of users. Okay. And so what I do, let me go get some code in one of my other apps here. And just take me a moment. Yep, I found it. Very good. And I don't know if you guys will think this is genius. I sort of think it's cool. Very useful. And all my stuff here. Code just a little bit. Well, open up. I know what I'll do. I'll add yet another button and show you this code. And then if we like it, we'll move it over to app on start. All right, so open up this button here and I'll paste the code that I've got. Okay. Now this is it. I can move this thing open up. That's as much as I can. So it's a little bit of code. It's not tons of code. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to check to see the current user if it's blank. Okay. Okay. So over here in the app on start, we have var current user. Okay. So that's what that's about. And so var current user. Okay. So I'll replace that. Replace that. Okay. So that's changed over. Now, if I double click on current user, okay, it's a record. There's an error in the formula. Okay. I'm going to bring over a label and I want to say paste. Nope. Var current user. Okay. Dot email. Okay, look at this. The current user is Darren. And as you can see up here, so I'm logged in. So it's not blank. It's good. So in this case, it's not going to insert me. So what I need to do is sort of well, I'm going to copy that, put over in Notepad++. Okay. I don't want that. I just want it to run. Okay. Go down here and set. Okay. Okay. I'm going to patch users. What is it complaining about? User's photo length does not exist. Okay. Sometimes I like to grab that. I think I might add that though. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to do is I am going to grab the user's photo from Office 365. So there's my photo right there in the upper right corner. You can see it there. You can see it there. Okay, that's my photo. So somebody comes into the application. We're going to grab that photo and we're going to break that down into a string of text. And I guess that's like base64. Okay, a base64 string that represents their image. And we're going to take that and we're going to throw it into our SharePoint list. Now, there is like a default image. And so I like to know the length of that. So if I'm looking for an image and I know that I want to know how big of an image that is, maybe hasn't been set. So over here for Nicole, perhaps I want to know how big that image is. And in this case, it's not even set. Okay, so before I make any changes to my SharePoint list, I'm going to go over here to users. Okay, I'm going to add a column here called users photo length. Okay, in this case, I'm just going to say photo length. So we have a photo, and now we have photo length as an integer. How many characters makes up that person's image? Might be useful. Okay, so we'll add that there, photo length. And an integer is just fine. We have users. We're going to go down here, create a column. Let's add in there. Make that a number. Go. Click OK. Now we're going to go back to our Powerapps. And we're going to type in users. And we're going to refresh. Okay, sort of cool copying and pasting code in from a different project. So now we have that. Now what does that have a problem with? Users photo length. Okay, so we named it a little differently. So we'll just take photo length. Now it's fine. Look at that. All right, so in this case, we're doing this. We're doing that split that I talked about. Okay, first, last name, titles, the full name. We have the email, we got the photo. That's all stuff that we have in here. And it's going to add me because I'm the current user. So you see that we're using that function called user in several places here. Well, for almost every single one of them. It's going to get the current user. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this. I'm going to run the button. There's no error. Okay, I'm going to refresh the screen here. There we go. And look at this photo length, 26,000 characters. Okay. All right. So now what's cool about this is on some other screen, if Nicole selected, so if she were to log in here, she would be added in there and would actually have her photo in there. And then so like this person has been assigned the ticket. It'll have that person's photo there. It's like John. So John, and you don't remember somebody's last name, is like, and you see a photo of them, like, oh, that John. John, okay, I'm gonna walk over there and go talk to him about my ticket. So that might be something that we do. Okay. Okay. So we've got three different people here going on. We have a requester and a person affected. So what we need to do, okay, we have all this code here, and we need to have it for those other two things. Okay, so I'm going to paste that there, and I might break this up a little bit. Some comments in here sort of organize the code a little bit, because if you open this up like, oh my goodness, what's all this doing? You know, so the next one we're going to do is requester. Okay. Does the requester exist in our user guys? What do we do? Are we calling this a database, or are we calling it SharePoint list? and our user table. I'll just say table for now. And our table. Okay. We'll say if so, put them into a variable. If not, insert them as a new record and put them into that variable. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all this up here at the top, add it here. So it's always a good example to put a lot of comments in the code, because, I mean, if it's just one line, maybe so what. But if you're getting to the point, we've got, I don't know, maybe 100 lines of code here, maybe 75. Even if it's just you maintaining this, you might come back to this a few months later and like, ugh. And then you got to spend there like, a good 20 minutes trying to figure out what you were thinking when you created the code. Okay. So does the suggested tech exist in the user table? Okay. So now down here, and something else I'll do something that makes it look nice is I'll put a little, almost like a horizontal rule in there, so it sort of stands out. So all this, when I put these lines in here, it means pretty much all this code after this line, and usually until there's another line. Okay. All right. So now we're looking at the users suggested tech. Now this is going to be sure. Okay. And also this is the wrong combo box, right? So let's say requester. Very good. This variable, I copied that on the clipboard. I double click on this. When you double click on a variable, it's going to highlight it anywhere else it's used. Okay, so I see it highlighted here and I see it highlighted here. So I'm going to double click on that one real quick, paste, double click on this one real quick, hit paste. Okay, something else I'm looking for, I'm going to copy this to the clipboard. This is the requester, but we've got code here that was copied. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 5 places we need to paste this. Okay, and we should be good there. So that has been set up. The requester's been set up so that later when we finally do our patch, okay, boom, boom, and we can say we are finally able to do our patch on the request now that we have all of our data in place in the users table. Okay, so add those comments in there. Right. So now I'm going to copy that code. Put in that comma at the end. Make sure a lot of times you'll write a patch statement or something. You'll say, it's not working. Well, look for these little commas. You need a comma on every single um, field that you have in here, except the last one. Okay. So we've got suggested technician. We've got the requester ID. Okay, requester ID. And we have over here requester name. Okay. But now it's going to be LOC requester. And for this one, it will be requester. Okay. See how fast when that second one took? That's nice. Now we need a third one, right? So we go here. Now we've got person affected. All right, so let's go back into our code. Person affected. All right, so I'm going to try to zoom out a little bit here. Working for some reason. Let's see. Try the let's zoom out a little bit so we can see more code at once. Okay. So I'm going to select all that, copy, go down below here, and I'm going to paste that there. All right. Does the does the ooh exist in our user table? Let's open the table. Okay. Person affected. Copy that on the clipboard. Okay. And then if we remember when we did our other two, it's used there and used there, just used twice. Okay, we've got that in there. And then we've got affected. Oh, click on the control to get the name, I guess. Person affected. Go. And we know from the last paste there were like 5. Okay, now we can do this up. So I'm going to copy that, go down here, and I'm going to put a little comment, paste that variable there. Now I'm just going to copy that, get the comma, copy, paste. Data is king says, I wish Power BI had this format text option. Yeah, I haven't done much with Power BI yet. I plan on learning it so I can teach you guys at least some of the basics of Power BI. But yeah, that's unfortunate to hear that Power BI does not have a format text option. Yeah. Ugh, yikes. Okay. So now I can use this there. All that now. And yeah, I need more. I need it to be bigger for my eyes. You know what we need to rename? We need to put the news. Okay, so person affected ID affected name. Okay. Now, for those of you who are familiar with this, doing a patch on a SharePoint list item, and you've got a um, you got a people picker type of field, trying to patch that. Oh man, it's like really hairy and awful. And it looks very troublesome and error prone. So this is how I like to do my own people picker. Okay, I think it's much cleaner and nicer, to be honest. And also, I found with a complex column, you run in some delegation issues if you're trying to do filters based on a complex type because you got to use dot, to get at things. And then it's like, oh, this is going to work on a large record set. And you're like, what? No. So this is the way I recommend. Have had nice success doing this because you always on your where clause and your in your filter statement, you're going to reference that ID. Okay. So we've got all that. What else do we need to do here? We've got these 3 here. We have the assigned department. Okay. Let's do that now. Okay. So let's say department probably just wants the ID, which it does. Also gallery, edit, ticket department. Okay. Now we need to go at the selected record within that gallery, and then we'll just grab the ID. How easy is that? Very easy. It's ticket priority. Priority ID. All right. Gal, edit, ticket. Did we rename that right? Nope. Oh, oh, I named it TXT. That's funny, huh? Ow. Yeah. That. Go back there. And then, all right. Selected. ID. We've got that. All right. The last thing to grab is the assignment level. Hmm. Assignment level. All right, so let's go in here and say assignment level. Now the assignment level, if we go back to our ERD, entity relationship diagram, which is what ERD stands for, our assignment level, that has to do with an assignment, like a technician is being assigned to something, okay? So perhaps we don't actually want to have the user set this, okay? Okay. So what I'm going to do, yeah, I'm not going to have them do that there because it's going to be set differently. Okay. But what I will do is I will cut that and put it over here. All right, guys. I want you guys to be thinking, like, do you guys have any questions so far? Because I feel like we're getting close to being done, and I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go farther than 3 hours. My back is hurting and stuff. So at the most, we'll be going for another 30 minutes. But think about any questions you have about this screen. Okay, what we'll do next is probably work on the we'll go through and do these other tabs. Okay, we might have a video or a live stream or a lunch and learn during my lunch break and cover all these. Okay. You know what we could do? Now we don't need all this other stuff in here. Okay, so I'm gonna get all this out. Is there anything useful in here that we needed? We don't need to do that. I mean, the users, we've got, yeah, we got both of those users in there. Okay. I'm just gonna take all this stuff out. It was all temporary anyway. All right, whip that out. Boom. I was thinking, oh, we'll add a notes in here for the user, but they have a request description. Okay. So think with me here, guys. I'm watching the comments. I want this to be a collaborative effort. I don't like the fact that this is all open here. What I really want to do is bring this rectangle up so I can put these buttons down there because we might have, 4 different buttons down here, and I don't want to clutter the top up. So I'm trying to think of how I might rework some of this. Okay. What I'm sort of thinking is I might move the description down here and move these 3 up. What do you guys think of that? Okay. What about a gallery for common IT issues? It's a good point. Okay. So we do have over here, we have ticket categories. So I want to show you this. We have hardware issue, password reset. So I would say now, unless you have, if you're thinking something completely different, but when you say that, this is what I think of the ticket category. I don't know that I want to trust the user to set this category, and typically users, customers don't like to fill out forms, fill out information. And I hate for them just to like just be lazy, not fill it out, and then that ticket has been assigned to a category which, not a lot of thought or expertise went behind that choice. So that's what I'm thinking. Now, as this application grows, let's say we add on a knowledge base to this application. What that means is somebody says, perhaps what we could use the AI components within the Power Platform, and we're sort of build onto this, right? And it can look in there and it can determine, oh, this person mentioned the word password, so we could have a look. These are all the knowledge base articles that will help out a person when they're trying to reset a password, and that might keep tickets from coming in. It would sort of help with that, so the IT staff aren't being um you know barraged, overwhelmed with all these tickets where if the user could have solved the problem themselves. Okay, so eventually we'll get there, but I do appreciate that. Yeah, so feel free to add to that. Anybody else? That's what I was thinking. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very good. Very good. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back there. Um, okay. So this is what I'm thinking. I'm going to move this over. And this is what I typically do. When you've got like a notes or comments, it can sort of fill out the space, which is nice. We could also have a little area for like a little, if you remember the thing I did for Holiday Inn, let me see if I can pull that back up. Where's that at? uh, too many screens. Let's see. Here it is. You guys see what I did here? What I do is I'm gonna tell you guys my secrets here. So what I did was I went out to Fiverr and I found a graphic artist that does these icons, and he creates icons for me that look really nice like this. And let me see if I can sort of show you. Yeah, I really should clean this up. Yeah. But yeah, I'll go to graphic artists and have them create some application icons that I'll use throughout the application. And I'll pay maybe $5 or $10 per icon, which I don't mind, especially if I'm building a system for somebody and charging thousands and thousands of dollars for building a system. Me spending an extra $50 to make them like super happy and having something really cool and visual. I mean, that's really money well spent. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna just continue for now and change this up. So I did a poll out there about what you guys think, how much a system like this would be worth. What would you, um, how much would you charge a client for a system like this? And and if you think about how much time it takes, let's say you're hired on um, to be a Power Apps developer, and you were hired down at I think maybe an entry level position might pay 50 or 60,000. It also depends on where. But most jobs are remote these days. But you could be making 70, 80, or $100,000 a year. Um, and let's say you're building a system and it took you a few months. Now, when you work for an employer, sometimes things take longer because they interact and sort of drive the process so much. There's a lot of meetings and there's a lot of this and there's all kinds of other things that you handle at the job just besides building an app. And while you're building it, you might give a status update like, oh, well, we want this to be different, and so they're constantly changing things. So it might take 1 to 3 months to do an application. Yeah, so data is king. It says at least 10,000. I would agree. At the low end, if I was like giving a significant discount, maybe 8,000. Okay. But yeah, at least 10,000. Absolutely. So let's say you're, let's see, let's pull up a calculator here. Where's my calculator? And just sort of put things in perspective. Okay. Let's say they kept adding requirements. I mean, I'm hoping this course when I'm completely done is maybe a 2 week course. It might end up being like a month-long course. I don't know. You guys tell me, how long is it taking you guys to get through the videos and do the work? I don't know how much time you guys are laying aside to doing this course and doing the work, but I mean, this is the first real screen. I mean, we did little admin screens, but this is the first one. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's say you're making 75, maybe $75,000 a year. I would say that might be an average. I don't know. You could go do your own research stuff, but I off the top of my head, I would say maybe 75,000 a year would be an average Power Apps developer salary. Okay, and let's divide that by 12 months. Okay, so you're making that amount of money, $6,250 a month, and let's say it took you 3 months from very start to beginning. I'm talking about bug fixes and everything. Okay, could be less, could be more. Look at that. $18,750 is what your employer spent. Now that doesn't include any project managers. You're gathering requirements. I've done that with you, designing. Perhaps they have an architect that does some of that stuff. So maybe they're paying an architect $140,000 to sort of to do architecture application and gave you the design. You know what I mean? So it doesn't include all the other people. Okay. So look at that, 18K. Okay. Now that might seem like a lot of money, but think about this. What if that business owner, the company, they need a solution. They have a problem. They need a ticketing system, and this is the solution that they've gone with. Well, what other options do they have? Could they buy software out there for $20,000? Off the shelf that's going to handle all their tickets. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they've got specific, or a lot of times companies will pay somebody to do custom development because the stuff that's out there isn't that customizable. It doesn't really fit their needs. So they'll hire you, the Power Apps guy or gal, and to develop this just the way that they need it. Okay. Oh yeah. And the client wants the app built yesterday. Absolutely. They want it. They want it now, yesterday. Absolutely. Very good point. Okay. So think about this. Think about how much money goes into this, how much you charge. So I think most of you are, I did a poll on my channel here. Let's take a look at this. We'll just go to the channel itself. So I'll click on, and I want to show you guys something. You go into community, and I've got all kinds of polls here. What can I do to make my video content more interesting and engaging? Looking for ideas, guys. So I was sort of hoping you guys would give me some information about that. Okay. What interests you most? Getting a Power Apps job, freelancing using Power Apps as a hobby. Something that somebody put in the comments was like, what if I just want to add Power Apps to my job? So that would be another item. And I would say most people are saying freelancing. Look at that. 58 or 60% of you guys want to be a freelancer, or maybe you currently are. You're just looking to become a better freelancer. Okay. So think about that. All right. So freelance, you got to find your own work, and you got to make sure there's a little bit of sales involved, and that type of stuff. So there's a lot of things, and that's a lot of the stuff I want to actually teach you guys. Okay. Um, so going back here. All right. So let's finish this up. And perhaps we can make this a little shorter. Okay. Nah, I sort of want this to be aligned on there. Okay. Oh my goodness, Liliana. Oh wow, to think that I'm making these apps while having a teacher salary. I need to speed up my learning here. Yeah. So yeah, it's unfortunate that teachers. I mean, I would imagine perhaps teachers don't make that amount, and also, um, the IT related jobs a lot of times don't require a 4-year degree. I do not have a 4-year degree, and I've really never had a problem getting a job. Now, if I was in the medical field or a teacher, or some other profession, perhaps that would be harder. Okay, so yeah, career type of stuff. I'd love to talk more to you guys about this. Okay, so demos these. So hopefully I pronounced your name right. Is this app responsive? Now, if you rewind this, the chat and also the video, I actually cover that early on. And I think it was the user, his name was Dev, I think it was. So I talked about that. Yeah, his name was Dev. And that was asked 16 minutes into the video. So rewind and you'll find my answer there. Okay. But I do appreciate the question. All right. So all right, so we've got this, and I've let me move these down just a little bit. Yeah, that's probably good. All right, so now I'm going to make this that wide. Okay. Uh, something I could do that would make this look a little better is I can pull this down a little bit, down to the bottom, and I could make this multi-line, but only more like 2 lines. Okay. Now we might change this up a little more, but I'm just trying to make it all sort of fit and look good here. Okay, might pull this down a little more and maybe back it off a little bit. Okay, what do you guys think of that? Now, why did I do all that? We'll check this out. This is a container. I'm looking for a rectangle back here. Where is that rectangle? And it might actually be inside. No. You know what I will do? I'm going to go back to the backup and look at its name. Now, we didn't copy it from this. We copied it from a tab screen. Okay. So here is the tab. Okay. So I'm going to copy that and we can go find that control. Let's do a search here. Search. Okay, look at that. There, we have it selected. Do you see that? Now go over to the tree view and actually see that it's selected. Okay. Okay, it's there in the tabs grouping. Okay. So now we could pull this up. Now, my question is, did it also resize the container we had? Okay. So we can set this container to be dynamic, have a dynamic height. So we'll go into the height for the container. Okay. We'll reference that rectangle. I think it's going to be 2. We should probably rename that, but we'll say the height. So they'll always have the same height. So we never have to mess with that again. All right. Does anyone have comments regarding whether or not subject line and full description should be separated? Any other design suggestions around this? Yeah. Yeah. Let me know, guys. Let me know what you think. What I thought was typically people are very used to something like this. Let's say an email. And a lot of tickets will come in through email. You have a subject line and a body of an email. So that's where my line of thinking went in using other systems is that you have a subject line and then you have a full description. So as an email comes in, we have a Power Automate flow that will check a mailbox for the service desk and grab those and throw it in here right where it needs to go. Okay. And the thing is, something we might want to do, we have it set to multi-line. Now, for the subject line, we only have 255 characters. So what you want to do in here is go find maximum length. Okay, set that to 255. So it's not going to allow any more than 255 characters, which really isn't terribly much. So once it won't allow any more characters, and they're like, oh, here's full description. Okay. All right. So now that we have that, I am going to go search for that rectangle again, and I'm going to rename this to be a little better. Okay. So here's a rectangle. RET is good. I don't like to use REC because I don't want that to be confused with a record. Now, the question is, what does our recommended guidance do here for rectangles? Do we have rectangles? Okay. They're suggesting SHP, which is what I should do. Okay, it's a recommended practice. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, SHP, shape. Okay, tab background, that's good. But what we should do is we should put, what's the name of our little prefix on all of our controls here? It's edit ticket. Yeah. And now I need to go search for SHP. Okay, so now it has a proper name. All right. A setup I like for title full description is an icon next to the title text box that pulls up a pop-up for the full description field. Okay. Now, I would love to see a screenshot of this. So, demos themes. I know I didn't pronounce that right, but I don't know if you're in the insiders group, but I would love to see a screenshot of what you're talking about. So if you don't mind, join the uh, insiders group, do the student intake forum. I'll get you added in there. And in fact, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the link directly to the group here. Okay. So you can join. I'd love to see a screenshot of what you're talking about. Okay. I agree, but they are currently situated. They seem too similarly done. I'd agree. So I think description would benefit from more space. No biggie though. Yeah. Yeah, we do have quite a bit of space. So the whole reason we did all this was that I want my buttons down here. Okay. So let's put this down here. And we've got a little square there. Okay. So yes, we can change this up. Absolutely. Okay. So none of this is set in stone just yet. We're still sort of like, you know, still sort of designing. And as we add more fields, we add more tabs. We can always rearrange these. And as we get a good idea for one screen, we can go back and revise previous screens that we've done. Now, I just updated that container, didn't I? I don't want to do that. I want to go to the shape background, select that, and move that down. There you go. Okay. Now, we haven't tested our save button, have we? All right, so we've got everything situated. I'm fairly happy here. I'm going to continue. Let's continue to have this discussion in the Facebook group, and brainstorm some ideas. We're going to do this for every screen. So, this is my app. You can design your screens differently, but I want to see yours. Perhaps yours is better. I might want to modify mine based on what you guys do. Okay, so remember this, guys. This isn't a spectator sport here. This is you're building an app, I'm building an app. They're similar, and we're going to share our ideas and build the very best app that we can by putting our minds together. Okay, and our experience. Okay, so we've got that. Okay, let's add in some good stuff. Something else we need to do, we need to add in some like some data validation. Like if they don't have a subject line or anything in description, I'm not going to allow them to click on that save button. What does Nicole think? That's a great question. She a lot of times has a lot to say. She has a lot to say about the designs and stuff. Me, I like straight lines, like things aligned and everything. She's more of she gives me a lot of feedback, and she designs public facing websites. And by the way, you guys are gonna see her in a few minutes. You guys have never seen her. You're gonna meet her. She has some special news for you guys. Okay, so you know what? I might have Nicole say something in the group about what she thinks. I know sometimes she's downstairs with the kids. She might pop in. Sometimes she watches, but I don't think she's watching this moment. Otherwise, she would be typing a lot of things. So after Nicole gets her say, this might change quite a bit. Okay. All right. So let's go in here and we'll say, I can't do my work. Okay, I'm going to assign this to Nicole. You know what? I need some design help for my ticket entry screen. Gerald asked me what you thought about my screen design, and now I just gotta know what you would change. Okay, I'm the requester. I'm the person affected. I'm sending it to her, and she's in information technology in this context. I'm gonna make this a medium. That's fine. I can change it here. All right, so I'm gonna click on save. And after the first time you click on a save, you got a patch. You always almost cross your fingers because you might have something in there. But something also I do before I run a button like this on a screen that I was just developing, I always select. So if you're using my application template or anybody else is using, like, say, their own template, you probably need to do this as well. You need to go to your menu, bring that on top. And then you also need to go find your spinner. Where's the spinner? There's the spinner group. I'm going to move that to the very top. Okay. You guys ready for this? Everybody cross your fingers. Okay. Now, perhaps we need to navigate them onto the screen and say, hey, your ticket was received. And we also need to do email. There's all kinds of things that we need to do on the screen, right? But at least within 3 hours, we've done this. Okay, so we've done that. Let's go find and let's go verify this data is here. Okay, and we'll go request. What am I looking at? I'm looking for this requests. Okay, very simple request. Uh-oh, I don't see. Okay, what? It's not in there. There must be an error. Yep, there is. You don't see it when you run it. Okay, where do we get the error at? It's not showing me the error. This is something that's a little frustrating about Powerapps, guys. Is you go in here and you say get help on error. Oh, title is required. Okay. Well, that's an easy problem to fix. Okay, title. So we have a separate field for subject. We could go in here and say title not required, but you know what? I don't like to mess with SharePoint columns that SharePoint creates for you automatically. Um, so let's say here, title. I'm not using title for anything. What I will do is I will put something there that I know is unique. So I'll say user email. That's gonna be a unique user, and then I'll also splice in a little string here with a little dash, and I'll also say now. That's gonna give us the current date and time, so date and time stamp in there. Okay, and we probably will never use that, but at least we've got a little field in there. We satisfied that requirement, and it is a unique value. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna hit Control S. And while that's going, Gerald says, next week, can we include a screenshot with the email? Or is the screenshot only available via SharePoint list? Or could we email? Now I'm not sure what you mean here. Next week can we include? So next week we can do anything you guys want, by the way. Include a screenshot with the email. The screenshot of what? The screen? Is that what you mean? Um, oh, but also we have images. So we want the user to upload images that they have. Also, we need to make some of these tabs invisible to the user, okay, if they're just a user. So we still have a lot of stuff to do, okay? But I feel like we've made a lot of good progress. Okay, so I'm going to run this again, and hopefully it runs this time. And it did not. Okay, so I have title. I think I have a title in every single patch here. Okay, that's good. I have a title here. Maybe it's got a different error for me. Yes, a screenshot of the problem screen we are wondering about. Yeah, so the user will need to go over into images and add that. Now, I mean, we could add a little place here for like, hey, browse the image, upload it, and just have a little gallery along the bottom showing all the images. There's just not a lot of space here. That's where I'm thinking the little tab thing there. Yeah, that's perhaps what's going on here. Oh yeah, thank you, thank you. Very good. That's a great thing about working together is that if I don't see it, if I have a brain fart, perhaps there's somebody else that recognizes what's going on here. All right, let's try this again. Save. Okay, that's a good sign where it takes like at least a second or two. Otherwise, an error is just going to bounce right back. Okay, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit refresh. Okay, there we go. Very good. Requested date and time. We should probably have that in there, guys. Requested date and time. Now we do have a column called created in any SharePoint list. Okay. And you might say, well, we'll just use that. Well, perhaps a ticket came, let's say the email came in at 8 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning. And me as a service desk person, the email came in, a service desk person is entering the ticket and they're entering the record. You may not enter it to like 8:35, but you need to actually put 5 a.m. in there. Okay. So that's something we need to think about. But by default, I want that populated though. Okay. So let's put that up there with title created. Oh, called request date time. Okay. For now, we'll just say now, but I probably want to put in, I don't know if I want a date picker. I mean, every ticket, well, if as a service desk technician, I come in Monday morning and they entered it Saturday, perhaps I do need a date time. So there might be some more stuff that we add in here, but the user wouldn't be doing that. If the user's in here entering this, then it will automatically be populated. Of course, that's when and how the ticket's coming in. They're in the screen, they're entering it right there. Okay. So I'll just put that in there for now. Okay. Okay, so the question, so it's got another error, but it worked. It actually added it. So I don't know if that's a leftover error or what. Okay. Um, Very good, very good. All right, so what we're probably going to do this next week, guys. So this is where we're going to go from here. We're gonna have more discussions over in the Facebook group, and perhaps this next week we'll have a lot of sessions during my lunch break where we sort of tweak and dial things in. We add some more things like that date picker, maybe some type of a time thing in there. Let me. This is bugging me whenever I see this. Title field is required. Well, we did that, so I don't know what's going on there. Maybe I'll test out a few things and get the status update there. Okay. So what else? So that I think that's pretty much going to do it. Now I do have a special message from Nicole. All right, you guys ready for this? All right.
Real quick. Hey guys, I'm Nicole, Darren's boss. Well, his wife. Listen, I have a special one-time offer for you. Darren is taking everything you're learning along with his Jumpstart Kit and packaging it into a full-blown course along with coaching that will teach you step by step how to create this application that you could sell or implement at your job. By the way, Darren sells applications just like this for 8 to 10 grand, which, by the way, is what an app like this goes for. How much would it be worth to you to have the skills to build apps that sell? Well, once this course is finished, it's gonna sell for $9.97. But if you take action now, we're gonna let it go for half off along with his Jumpstart Kit. And you'll be able to participate in the live group coaching calls. Darren will personally teach you and coach you how to build an application like this and answer all of your questions during the live training. He will make sure you understand everything you need to know in order to create the app. But even better, if you get in now, for the first 10 people, we're gonna let it go for just $250, which, by the way, is what Darren charges for 1 hour of private tutoring. So look out for the link. All right, guys, I think he's coming back. Bye.
Very good. And something I want to add to that is if you guys have already bought the Jumpstart Kit, you will be getting a discount. So if you paid the with the 99, you'll be getting that discount. And also the price has gone up. And if you bought that at the new price, you would get the discount for that as well. So one last thing to send you guys. Let me see here. Here is the link to that. You guys have that. And then, guys, for some reason, YouTube thinks you're going to like this video next. Let's see if they're right. Or you can select this playlist, which I've selected for you based on the content you're currently watching. Guys, got to hurry. Click one of them. Otherwise, YouTube's going to autoplay some other video, which you probably don't want. Thanks.